For those who don't know, which is probably everybody on this channel because we're coming in fresh here. What's your background? How'd you get into songwriting? What's like a brief description of maybe your sound, maybe even who you think you appeal to, and if you can put a genre on it, try that. But
Ooh,
I know I'm a person at least who's a little anti-genre. I feel like it's such a like it just reduces who you are too much.
don't
But
put me in a box.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
totally get
special.
it. I'm special. Well, everybody's unique, you know? Um, so I'm Dana Andrews, and I am just now coming out as a solo artist in my not 20s or 30s. And that's really exciting, actually. I've been in a few bands before, and I've just been doing music since I was like really little, like 5. I've just always been drawn to
Wow.
it. And yeah, fun story actually. My grandma was obsessed with Elvis, and she had a karaoke machine. Apparently, she wanted to be a rock star when she was younger. And so she got this karaoke machine and she was obsessed with it. And so anytime we were over at my grandma's house, that's what we did. And so I grew up entertaining just I mean, it was my family, like whether
Yeah.
they were sober or not, it didn't matter. It was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna learn some Patsy Cline and some Elvis Presley and some Aretha Franklin, and I cut my teeth doing that. And I think I wrote my very first song. It was called "Love Is Magic" at 9 years old because I knew so much
That's
about
so
love.
funny.
Yeah,
Everybody remembers the name of the first song. I think it's so funny.
yeah, yeah. I think I just sang the same lines over and over. I don't even remember what it sounded like, but I remember the moment where I was like, "Oh, I just created something."
Mm.
And then I don't know, I got kind of nerdy when tape recorders came out and I started recording the radio and I was singing along with the radio, singing harmonies, and I was like, I need another tape recorder to record me singing harmonies with the radio. So I'd record that and then I was like, oh, I can do a third harmony, and I didn't know that I was producing at like
Yeah.
11, but that's how it happened. And now I mean, that was just kind of probably a way of coping, a way of connecting with like what was going on with me, maybe a way of connecting with, my family. And then later in life, it's become a way to connect with God, to connect with other people. Hopefully, I can connect with like what's going on with me in my life. It's very like transmuting. It's very much alchemy for me. Like I'm going through a hard thing, I write about the hard thing, and then there's usually some tiny bit of hope. Sometimes not. Sometimes they're just left to lament, but sometimes there's a little tweak that's like, oh, there's hope in there somewhere. And I'm hoping that that will help. If I just put it out there, if it helped me heal a little bit, it'll help somebody else heal as well. And as far as the genre goes, I actually created one, and
Oh, I like that.
yeah,
Speaking my
and I'm
language. There we go.
yeah, I'm calling it outlaw gospel.
Ooh.
I'm like, oh, that's catchy,
Oh, that
but
makes a
like
lot of sense. Actually.
you heard the
Yeah.
unreleased track,
Yeah.
so you got to hear
Yeah.
that.
The 100%.
Yeah,
That's a
because
perfect name.
it's got this
Yeah.
like it's got gritty rock. It's got a little bit of southern influence, so you've got the
Hmm.
blues in there. You've got a little bit of the twang and like the grit and the dirt. A little bit of country in there, barely. Mostly
Yeah.
heavy rock, and there's always like I'm talking about the things that people don't want to talk about. And
Mm.
and just from my own personal experience, people in the church they don't want to talk about mental health. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna
That's
talk
very
about
fair.
it. So I'm kind of a rebel, but like a holy rebel, if you will. And so I'm like, I'm gonna sing. I want to sing for the black sheep, and tell them like there could be some hope. There could be some redemption there. So that's the whole point.
Yeah. What's funny too is like every main character in the Bible, well, the main character is God, but every other character in the Bible would qualify as that pretty much. But
Yeah.
your everyday Christian now is like not, and that's not like not rebel in a bad way. You're not using it in a bad way either, right? Just like a rebel is like somebody who doesn't just be like, well, here's the line, and this is we all agree on the same exact thing. That's like not even necessarily the case. Just like we all decided this is how we do things. It's like based on what?
I
Where's your
just
biblical evidence for that? It's just
right.
decided. It's like who decided this?
I well, fun fact, I'm actually also a brain health trainer. and like a mental health coach. And so I
Mm.
understand that that part of our brain, the mammalian, if you want to call it the mammalian or the reptilian part of your brain, that's just
Mm.
survival. It's just tribal. It's this tribal mechanism that I have to be in agreement with everyone else. Also,
Mm.
throw in like some childhood trauma, pepper in some people pleasing, and you have people that really love to conform.
Yeah.
And I did that for years. So it's not like I've always been this like loud rebel, but just in
Mm.
quiet ways, I would speak out on like, this isn't okay, or I'm not quite like these people. I feel like an outsider. For the longest time, I was like, I swear I was adopted. I don't know. But my family is amazing, and they're so I
Yeah.
love them so much, and they're wonderful and supportive, and but yeah, it's just interesting, and I think the more and maybe you realize this too because you're very outspoken as well about like your stances on things, which I totally respect a lot. And I think that is that being fully known and fully seen. I mean, obviously for
Mm.
me it's like do that with God first, but that's when you start feeling really confident in who you are because now you're fully known, you're fully seen. And if you are loved in that state, then you can be fully loved. You're not walking around with a bunch of insecurity and a bunch of fake in it. And so I think over the years, I just started to just drop the facade and go
Mm.
like this is who I am. And if you don't like me, my mammalian part of my brain can like thank you for sharing, but we're not going to die for a negative comment on Facebook. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like what have you found? What have you found when you're being outspoken? Because you know what it's like. Anybody that's
Yeah.
creating content, I think you said that actually. Anybody that's creating content, you know, what the comment section is like. I think I heard you
Oh
say
yeah.
that once,
Hmm.
and I was
Hmm.
like, ah, that's so comforting.
Yeah.
So,
Got a borderline death threat over talking about songwriting,
wow,
which is like
that
maybe
there,
one of the dumbest things in world history. Yeah.
they're really passionate and good for them,
One might say that. Yeah.
right? So for you, I
Yeah.
guess, where is that like freedom of speech, freedom of person, freedom of like just being an individual, and where
Mm.
is it like where's the line for you specifically of like, okay, there are some serious things we do need to agree on. This
Yeah.
might be way too philosophical, way too deep, but it's just a curious question because you are very
Yeah.
outspoken
No, it's
and you
good.
do have like very strong beliefs, but you also have that percentage of you, I'm going to call it humility, where you're like, I don't think I know everything, but there are
Yeah.
some things that I'm firm on.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it comes from, well, part of it is just reps in the sense of like the more you disagree with people or like the better you get at like your relative says something you don't agree and you can look them in the eye and be like, actually, I think it's this because of this, this, this. And just the more you exercise that or the more it's like hate comments, right? The more hate comments you get, the more easy it is to be like, "Pff, whatever.
It's training.
It's just anything else, right? Or like uh, relating it to music, a part like a core part of to me my story is um, in high school, I was in choir and all that, but at some point my music teacher was like, "Hey, you should try out for what was called encore, which is like the elite choir or whatever." And I was just honored that he would ask me.
Yeah.
And then he pushed me to do a solo where I would play guitar and do it. And he did everything right, where he like built me up, and he was like, "All right, your voice is perfect for this because," and he gave specifics right. So I'm feeling it. Shout out to Mr. Lawson if he ever sees this.
All right. I was about to ask,
Still,
like, what's his name? We need to
still a
shout him
hero,
out. Cool.
Joshua Lawson, hero, and unfortunately, last I checked, not even a music teacher anymore, which is tragic because he was very important to me, and I appreciate him greatly. But it's unkind to all the other kids out there that need him. But anyway, and I totally screwed it up. Right, I totally screwed it up, and the main thing I learned from that, as well as the first time I screwed up a piano recital, which was many years before, but it took a while. Like it was years of I threw up before and then played perfectly, and my teacher was proud. And then there was one time I totally stopped, and I just like total screw up.
Froze.
Had to like start the song over and everything. Now, luckily, the one in high school was not that bad. In fact, nobody noticed. I like forgot half the lyrics because it was a song that had like a large part at the end. That was my solo. That was like a minute and a half of just like new lyric, new lyric, new lyric.
Oh, wow. So
it was
easy
like
to
parts I
forget.
forgot or whatever. But anyway, you learn, right, that like when I screw up, the world doesn't end.
Right.
But you have to learn that by screwing up. You don't know that otherwise. So I think it all kind of relates to that, where like you just get reps at it, and like everything else, you get more used to it. and I think like I don't know, it's nothing more tragic than you're liked but it's not really you, or like to me I'm perfectly comfortable with people not liking like my first obligation is to attempt to tell the truth. I'm not always going to know the truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you can be more confident that you're at least close to the truth the more logic and evidence you have around that thing. And then the less, that's where the humility comes in, where it's like, look, I don't know about this subject. I have, I have an opinion, but like, I don't really know. And then there's a lot of people, right, that have super strong opinions about stuff that they don't know anything about. And then it's like, okay, now you've just lost your legitimacy, which I think the importance of the humility part, besides the moral part, is just like, if you never express that part, then people are like, what, do you know about everything somehow? And that's never the case. So
Right.
I don't know.
Strong
I don't know.
opinions, loosely held.
Yeah.
I really
Yes, I
love
think
that.
that's very
Somebody
important.
posted that somewhere. Strong convictions, loosely held. And I was like, well, how
Yeah.
strong are they then? But I started thinking about humility
Yeah.
because there are things that I really thought 6 years ago, like this is the truth. And now I'm like, oh wow. It's actually very different. And I don't want to walk
Mm-hmm.
around going like, I could be wrong all the time because that's just
Yeah.
breeding insecurity. But
Mm-hmm.
but you make a really good point of if you keep pretending to be someone else and everyone likes it, you're never going to feel fulfilled. You're
Yeah.
never going to feel fully seen, never going to feel fully loved. And I spent way too much time doing that. It was
Yeah.
exhausting. And it's very lonely. It's really lonely. And I know a lot of the people that are probably going to resonate with my music have been there. And they've
Mm.
done it not because they're less than or that they're unlovable, but probably because them actually being 100% themselves either led to rejection or some kind of harm and like legitimate harm, and their brain is a prediction machine. It's not to make us happy, it's not to figure out the solution. It's literally a prediction machine. So if it's happened once and it was deeply ingrained, especially in formative years, why would you put your hand up in class if your teacher laughed at you?
Yeah.
You just have to pretend you know everything. And so I'm like, oh
Yep.
man. So my practice that I've been doing is like I'm trying to go straight to compassion before commentary, which is very hard when I have
Yeah.
strong opinions loosely held.
Smart though. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's smart. Speaking of strong opinions loosely held, because this is a thing that I want to ask as many people as I can because I think it's great. Give me like your strongest songwriting opinion that. Well, actually, there's two different things I want to know. One is your like most spicy songwriting opinion. Maybe we'll get to that later. But similarly, is like what's something? Because I agree. Like, in fact, I see it as a mark of somebody that is like of high. I actually trust people more who change their mind about certain things over time. If they believe exactly the same thing they did 5 or 10 years ago, that's a massive flag to me that they don't actually think, because there's certain things, right, that you should probably stay roughly the same. So largely my core worldview is the same as it was 10, 15 years ago. But there's like lots of fringe stuff around that. So similarly, like there's always certain songwriting opinions that I have that are like, oh, I was close to something that was true, but actually I was a little wrong about that. Or there's some things maybe I'm more wrong about. And
My
if you
computer's
have some
doing a thing.
commenters,
I'm
wrong
so
about everything,
sorry if you
and I'm an
can't hear
idiot.
me. It's
But
doing a whole thing.
so like what do you think is like? Can you think of any songwriting opinion where you're just like 5 years ago you thought X, and now after 5 more years experience or 10 more years you're like, why did I think that? This is way better. Or this is a better way to go.
Well, one thing that I feel really friggin' spicy about that isn't different, that hasn't changed, but it's like, this is my hot take. Like,
Yeah.
why did you kill the bridge? Why did you kill the bridge? What happened to the bridge
I agree.
in the song? Like, that's where the turnaround happens. You can have angst and anger, hopelessness, anger again, but that bridge turns it around, and that last chorus, just the payoff is delightful. It's so good, you know? And I'm like, wait, you killed the bridge because of what? Your attention span? Or did you run out of melody ideas? Like, do you just, your guitarist just wanted to do a solo? You just wanted to help them out? So I think that's my spiciest thing. And I think
I love
something
every
that I
word you
used
just
to
said.
think.
Every word.
Sting,
I was almost hoping I was
Sting
going to
agrees
disagree with
me.
it because it would be spicier,
Right.
but every word you just said,
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
See,
I was gonna
yeah,
also
but
throw
I don't.
laziness in there, but I guess I'm less nice
There's
than you
that.
are.
You could call some people out. However, I have also like I was just laying down guitars for a song that I'm like it doesn't need a bridge, and I'm like,
Mm,
really? It doesn't because it's so final. Like the chorus,
hmm
the end of the chorus is so final that it is just it lands on solid ground. So there's some
mm.
leeway there. But one thing that I used to absolutely hate, and it used to drive me insane that I now do, is mumble singing for lyrics. And I hated it because I've always been the kind of person where usually the melody and the lyrics come together for me. Like they come at the same time. And
Interesting.
I'm
Okay.
very, very blessed in that way. Or I'll just get lyrics and then I'll, kind of sing the melody, or at least I'll have a rhythm and sing the melody
Mm,
along with it. But it bothered me so badly when I was first songwriting with my very first band, incredible songwriter, and he would just sing a melody and a rhythm and he would just mumble some lyrics and then he would find words that fit in those lyrics. And I'm like, you don't even know what the song is about. There was no emotional connection with that at all. Like you just like Cookie Monstered this thing and now it's an amazing song. Like you don't even know. Somebody asks you like, "Oh my gosh, that song changed my life." You're like, "Yeah, I was just mumbling in the back of a lamp store." What do you mean? But it was actually my very first band. Like our EP was
yeah.
called Lamp Store Sessions because we did rehearse
Oh,
and
okay.
practice in the back of a lamp store.
Oh, that's cool.
Which yeah, interesting story. But it used to bother me, and now I understand. With more
Hmm.
life under my belt, I'm like I can mumble sing a melody, or a melody will come to me, and there will be no lyrics. And I'm like, well, what do I want this to be about? And I'm not drawing from thin air just to make up words that rhyme
Mm,
or that fit in that syllable matches with that rhythm. It is actually drawing from life experience and things that I've actually felt. And so I had a big old judgment that mumble singers were not attached to their songs at all. There was no emotional connection, and I stand corrected. And she hath mumbled.
so when you say mumble singing, is this like essentially you hear the song and you're kind of like just mumbling a melody to yourself and you like try different words in it like at the same time? Is that
Yeah,
what that is?
yeah,
Okay, so it's basically an attempt at a high level. It's an attempt to write the lyrics with the melody, like you're doing both at the same
sure,
time.
yeah.
Interesting. So, okay, so seen another way, you're improvising the lyrics and the melody at the same time. That's interesting. So, when you are you also saying that often you're keeping the how often do you end up with something that is like you mumble saying it into existence and then you tweak like the melody later or you tweak the lyrics later?
Two
Is that
days ago.
something you often find?
Yeah, just happened 2 days ago.
Okay, where you which
Because I
one?
found
The lyrics or the
I
melody?
just was
Or both?
mumbling something,
Hmm.
and I had a cool melody, and I was just saying like because vowels line up really well with certain parts of the melody and certain rhythms, and I was trying to
Sure.
get these vowels like okay, well, what would that actually say? And um, and I came up with it. I was just like. I done right away, I'm like, okay, so it should be an AA. And
Yep.
ended up with, like, I won't forget your name because I wrote it on your grave, which,
Mm.
which is a little spicy, but
Wow. Yeah.
when you're letting go of someone in your life, sometimes you need to write a breakup letter. Sometimes there needs to be a funeral for that
Yeah.
person
It's
in your
real.
mind to cut contact. And so that's what I came up with. It was a mumble at first. And then it was like, oh,
Mm.
A's would sound good on those. And then it was like, okay. Um, and then I found out what the song was about after I had started singing, which was completely opposite from how it usually happens. Like usually when I start writing a song, I
Mm.
know what it's about. Like first line, first chorus, like I know what I'm writing about, and then I wrap the whole song around it. But recently, I have been
Interesting.
expanding. Did you know there are
So when you
different
say
ways to start a song?
yes, in fact, you, you've given you already. I have like 10 hours of stuff in my head of follow ups I could have asked about all the different all the different little things are like, ooh, I want to know more about that. I've already forgotten half of them, I'm
Let's
sure.
go. Oh, sorry.
There's so
I
many
have a
good little
notebook.
things in there. Yeah, there's so many good little things in there. But okay, so for the song starting, since we you landed on that, that's a good place to go. On average, what would you say when you say like you know, I'm first sitting down to write a song? What does that mean, right? Like what do you actually do first, or what things are you doing together when you are starting a song?
I never do that.
You never do that.
I never sit down to write a song. I just
Okay.
I'm usually walking. I'm usually like walking a
Mm.
dog. And then I'm listening to music and then something inspires me or I'm thinking about things or ruminating, whatever. And I'll hear a lyric or hear a melody in my head and I'll start messing with it and then all of a sudden I'm reaching for my phone with the dog leash and the poo bag trying to record something as I'm walking down in Santa Monica. Um, and it usually happens like that. I haven't I have tried to be lately, and just in this past year of like, all right, I'm going solo artist because I know. There's like Steve Martin. I know he does comedy, but he's like, you have to write every day. Seinfeld, you have to
Mm.
write every day. If you want to be a professional writer, you have to write every day. So I've been trying that,
Mm.
and it's an interesting practice, but I don't necessarily sit down to write a song. It just comes to me while I'm living my life. And then unfortunately, I have to stop whatever it is I'm doing and like run and go like get a voice memo going, which isn't
Yeah.
quite convenient, but.
So is it
But
usually like a lyrical idea that tips it off, or is it a
it's
melodic one, or both, or is it like 50-50?
either and both.
Okay, so sometimes you have the melody and the lyric, like,
Yeah.
and when we say a lyric, just is it usually like one line, and you're like, ooh, and I know how it would be sung. So like you have
Yeah.
the melody of say the last line of the chorus or something, and then the rest of the song is built off of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
usually, I don't know why. I usually write in order, but this year I've really
Okay. Yeah.
stretched myself. I usually write in order. I'll start with a verse.
Mm.
But this year I've stretched myself. I'm just like, I'm going to intentionally try and write choruses this week and just tell that to
Mm.
my subconscious mind. That way, whenever I'm walking the dog, I'll like, that'll come up. What do you do? Do you intentionally, like you said, I'm going to write from
Yeah.
7 to 9 p.m. and you just do that?
Not sometimes I like to mix it up because I'm a big believer in like attacking anything you do from a bunch of different angles,
Yeah.
because I don't think there's like there are some things where maybe I think there's one right way, but most of the time it's more like you have to find the way that's best for you as an artist.
Right.
And you also need to find the way that is like best for you in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always very leery of when somebody gives like a one way to do everything. So for instance, I actually like the exercise of set a timer for an hour and force yourself to start and finish a song. As a person who is a huge believer in a song should take as long as it needs, no less, no more. So I'm super against the idea of like pump out a song a week. Like I want to throw up in my mouth just thinking about the people who tell people to do that, because that's not art, that's content, right? I'm actually doing a whole podcast about that I recorded
Ooh, hot
yesterday, and I
take.
decided I'm going
Let's
to re-record it.
go.
So
All
so
right.
anyway, so I'm big about that, right? So I have had songs that like one song that probably will end up making the EP that I had done. I'm now thinking I'm going to evolve into an album. So I think I'm going to resurrect a song called "Won't Be Tonight," which is a song from like basically it's the whole girlfriend broke up with me. I cried way too much for like 2 or 3 days. This is back in like freshman year of college,
Nice.
and then watched Everybody Loves Raymond a lot, like 3 seasons worth. And then I'm like, wait a second, I'm a songwriter. I should make something useful out of this. And for the most part, most of that song came together, and it was my best song for a while in like 45 minutes. Now, the current song I would say is my best song is a song called Flightless, which has 3 choruses that all have different lyrics, 2 verses with obviously different lyrics, 2 bridges, not one, but 2, to your bridges point, which I want to revisit, by the way.
Dang.
2 different bridges. And then it ends on what I call a finale, which is like the way I define a finale is it's kind of a hybrid between a bridge and a chorus, and that like a bridge, it happens once and only once. Like a chorus, it's the highlight of the song. And then like a bridge is usually like more story based, right? So you mentioned
Sure.
before, like a bridge is like with the turning point in the story or whatever.
Yeah.
And and usually the theme is more chorus. So finale is like taking all that stuff and putting it together, and it like takes advantage of the whole. Like I love when you watch a movie, and then the ending blows your mind, like The Prestige, and you're like, I'm ready to watch the whole movie again because like the ending was so like.
Right.
So I'm like, why can't that be in a song? Anyway, that song took me a long time to write,
Hmm.
probably over a year. Now I'm not actively working on it for a year, but that one took me a long time. But so like my a former best song of mine was 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, with some tweaks later. But for the most part, it is what I wrote within a short period of time. And then my current best song took a long time and a lot of life experience and a lot of like thinking about who I wanted to be when I was older. And so I really hate when people are like, "Oh, this you always have to write a song in an hour. It shouldn't take too long. Pump it out, whether it's ready or not." I couldn't disagree with that advice more. I think a song should take as long as it should take, which sometimes is short, sometimes long.
Yeah.
But on average, to answer your question about the process, it's kind of a mix, and it's interesting. Uh, when is the start of a song? So, for instance, Sunday, my pastor said something, and I pulled my phone up in the middle of the sermon and wrote down the sentence he said because I thought that sounds like a song idea. So did I start the song then? I would argue I just captured an idea that later could become a song. So that's one thing. To me, like, writer brain is like you're always looking for something, right? You may
Yeah.
say something that's like, "Ooh, that's a good little quote," and I file it away in my brain, or if I'm smart, I write it in my idea document right away before I can forget it.
Yeah.
But then also, usually for me, it starts with music, and that's
Okay.
downstream of. I Here's the question I ask everybody, that got me to this opinion, because I care deeply about lyrics. So some people like think that if you care about lyrics most, you do that first, and if you care about music most, you do that first. And I used to have that opinion. That's an opinion I used to.
Hmm.
In fact, I probably shared this in an early songwriter theory episode, and I don't agree with it anymore. What I found is lyrics just usually take time to get right. So time is the big factor. Whether you write them first or last makes no difference to that. But to me, the fundamental question is, if you hear music like a Hans Zimmer piece, some sort of soundtrack music, even a video game music, whatever it is, something instrumental, classical, do you like hear what the story is? Like, oh, it sounds like an old man running out of his time, and he's thinking about his wife who died. Like, can you feel a story in your head? Is that more intuitive to you, or is it more intuitive when you read poetry to hear music? And I think for the vast majority of people, the answer is A. I think almost everybody can like
Ooh.
hear music and they're like, it's a Hans Zimmer piece, right? And they can like they fill in the story. So as in that case, I think it's generally downstream to start with music and then let the music kind of inspire where it goes. Because I'm a big believer in like pulling, not pushing. So like I never try to push something onto a song. I'll like sit at my average process is like Joseph sits at piano and tries to come up with an interesting piano part until I'm like, ooh, that
That one. Okay.
lit
Yeah.
me up somehow. Not always, but especially now. I mean, even the EP/album that I'm putting out probably ends up being 50-50 guitar, piano, something like that. But future music is probably going to be like 90-10 towards piano. There's many reasons for that. But one is just, for me, the best way to start a song with a musical foundation that lights me up and is like, ooh, this is an interesting foundation to build off of,
Hmm.
is usually with the piano riff. And also to your point, you said something about like you often write in order. I think that's really interesting because I actually usually do that as well, where like I
Hmm.
sort of develop music from beginning to end, and a part of that is a product of, especially the way I my music ends up being. Usually the choruses are huge, so the piano part is like less important because it's buried in guitars and orchestration and all that anyway.
Yeah.
But when it's just like me sitting at the piano to start the first verse, the piano part's very important because the entire song at that point is me singing the lyrics and melody and the piano,
Hmm.
or maybe the acoustic guitar, but usually the piano. So there, it's really important that the piano part itself is something that is like, ooh, okay, that's kind of interesting. Compared to in the chorus, it doesn't matter as much because now it's you have all the layers to make it interesting. So the tendency is like I start with a piano riff that usually is going to be the verse piano riff, and then now something I've moved into is more and more. I actually usually like compose the whole journey of the song and then move to the next step of melody writing for like the whole song, and then move into like what does this song sound like it is. And usually it's somewhere in the writing of the song that I'm like, actually, maybe I wrote the verse and the chorus, and I'm like, this song sounds like it's about X. So then I figure out whether I have a bridge or not, or if I have a finale or not, or the rest of how the song flows based on the story I'm trying to tell. So
All
at some
based
point
on
it sort of
music
becomes
before you
this.
even have words.
Yeah, usually, but I also have a running list of words and themes and things that I want to try. So often, like,
Okay.
I'll write a piano riff and I'll look through my list of ideas and be like, does this, like,
Does
I
this
feel weird
feel
doing
like
that,
the story I want
but
to
does
tell?
this, yeah, does it feel like
Cool.
it's a match? And I actually wouldn't word it that way, which is a weird, somewhat pedantic thing, but I always treat it. I don't know. I don't think this is the truth. I know we write songs, right? But I try as much as possible to treat it like the music already meant something. I need to pull what that actually is.
Ooh.
Because one of my theories is that like what makes
That's
a
so
song
deep.
great is when everything is on the same level. One of the terms I thought of for it, it's a little too like sciency, but like the atomicity of a song, which is like because an atom is something that you can't break into smaller pieces, right? There are smaller pieces, but you like an atom is if something's atomic, it's saying that it can't be broken into
You're
smaller
breaking
pieces.
it down to the smallest essence. Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, when I say the atomicity of a song, it's the appearance that that music could have never been paired with any other melody or any other lyric because it's just so perfect for each other.
Wow.
And I think that's where a song ends up being great because it's where there's tension, where it feels like really the music sounds like, and you can have tension on purpose that I think can work,
Mhm.
right? So the best songs I can think of are like songs that are they sound happy and poppy, but really they're sarcastic. That actually fits,
Yeah.
right? Even though there's a tension there.
Yeah. I'm
But
not gonna write you a love song
yes,
'cause
that's
you
a perfect
asked
example
for
of
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a
She said you
absolutely
can
perfect
be a
example of that.
total
Yeah,
B if you make it sound happy.
yeah, that's
Thank you,
also true.
Sarah. Yeah.
But also it like fits with the tone of it, right? Because
Yeah.
sarcasm kind of is this. So it just fits. So that's one of my underlying theories of songs and music is like it's more about because something else I struggled with that to me was an opinion I had early on. I was a little bit more of a theory snob where I somewhat struggled with like I don't know, is a song inherently better if it has like more interesting things musically happening, like oh they used a borrowed chord and
Mm.
it's in Phrygian mode and all that. And I realized no, there's some true all-time great songs that have like the most basic chord progression ever. And I had written a song as an experiment that was just two chords, just to like see, and I used layers to make it interesting. And I thought, oh, that turned out pretty good. So I realized like, no, it doesn't matter. You're more limited as a songwriter if you can only do the basic stuff. So it's still good to learn the other stuff. It helps
Sure.
because it gives you a more color palette, if you will, to work with. But it doesn't. It's more like it's whatever the song needs. Some songs need to be like Phrygian mode, and then it goes into some other mode, and it uses this borrowed chord, and blah blah blah. So then that's the right for that song. But another song, like it should be just 1 5 6 4,
Yeah.
and it's
Or
fine.
like Free Fallin', I think is like two chords.
It's not many for sure, but yeah. But what would you change about that song, right? If somebody tried to reharmonize the song, it would not get better. I can almost guarantee.
No. Man,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing that with me because it shows me so much that art is so subjective. And even the creation of art is so subjective because what you were saying is like you get more, and of course you didn't like the feeling of it, but that the song, the music itself already has a story, and lyrically you're just meant to tell the story, like you're just the
Hmm.
steward of the song's um, journey, I guess, which is so interesting. And I think knowing what I know about like brains and the way people learn and things like that, I've got a different it's what's your language that's more available to you. So a guitarist is probably going to come up with the music before they come up with a lyrical melody, unless
Hmm.
they are a lead guitarist and they think in melodies first, right? So
Yeah,
it's this
100%.
wonderful thing. So for me, I'm like, oh, I don't I hear the music later. I hear the music way later. I mean, I was in band. I played the flute. I was a
Yep.
band nerd, but I didn't grow up. I've never taken like music theory. I've had 4 guitar lessons in my life, and I've had a
So
few.
funny. You can count them. That's funny. That's
Yeah, I could
awesome.
only afford a month at the time. And it was just once a week. And I've
So you're
taken,
singer first then, right? Like, so is
yeah,
everything like singer
that's
first kind of? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my language. That was the instrument that was
Hmm.
easiest for me to communicate. And I think one layer above that as well is if you go deeper into how does someone actually process their emotions and
Hmm.
what are their tools for that? I'm a verbal processor. I have to talk it out. So it makes sense that I would go with lyrics and melody first because playing
Yeah.
that would especially with limited skill set on pianos or guitars, like I feel limited, so I'm more frustrated. That breaks down the ability for that communication to flow through me. For you,
Mm.
you're so
Ooh,
very well
love
spoken, it
that.
makes sense maybe that you would rather have the music flow through you with no overthinking, to like shut off that default mode network and just let it flow, and
Hmm.
so it makes sense that you would like, let me get that story out first with no barriers whatsoever. I don't have to overthink this. And then I can get into the nitty gritty detail to really honor the song. I think that's brilliant. That's a brilliant process for you. And then you have fantastic people that have synesthesia, that are like they see
Mm.
colors when they
Yeah,
hear
it's
music.
wild.
I had
Yeah.
a client
I don't understand
actually.
that at all. I mean, I kind of
Yeah.
do, but like not the way they describe it.
Oh my gosh, it's really incredible. I have one client where I was doing more functional movement training with her,
Mhm.
and I was trying to access certain muscle groups. Like, can you feel your glutes activate? Like, do you feel your quads activate? She's like, I don't know. It feels black, and I'm like, what? She's like, well, this one feels green, and she's like, oh, it's this thing, and she told me like she feels things in colors. And so I had to figure out what her
So
palette
interesting.
was. It was the wildest thing in the world. I had to figure
Yeah.
out what her palette was. The good news is it was more in shades, and
Mm.
and it makes sense. Like if it was a little bit more red, there might be a little bit more pain, a little bit more inflammation, but the darker the shade of green, the darker the shade of blue, the more activation she was getting. It was wild. But then sometimes if it was like a super big activation, it was a really bright color. So it's it's interesting, but I do believe that we all kind of do that. We all kind of do that, but
Hmm.
it's in our own different language. Like a drummer is going to feel the groove before anything
Yes.
else,
Hmm.
and that is their language. That there's no communication barrier. They're going to feel the groove first, and they're gonna light up different areas of their brain, whether that's in color or senses or language or movements. It's just cool the way brains work, and I just think it's really awesome the way that you process. You're like, let's get rid of all of the barriers. Let me just really feel this whole, like let me just have this come through me first, and then I'll think about it later.
I think it's more like we all want to set ourselves up for success, right? So like
Yeah,
going to how for you, you're a singer first, and rightfully so, right? Like I consider myself like a person who learned to sing. Uh, like I wouldn't consider myself a natural born singer, if that makes sense. And maybe you don't consider
really.
yourself one, but you are one because I've heard your voice. So like you're
I
like
worked at it
the
a
way I would
lot, but
word
I
it.
do.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, your voice is great. So the way I would think of it is like the way I've said it to people before is like when people ask what instruments do you play, I usually say, well, piano and guitar, and then like I guess voice if it counts. And my defense of that is like Celine Dion can claim that that's her instrument, right? Because
Right,
she's a total and to me she's like
legit.
the absolute epitome of a perfect female vocalist is something like her. I say as somebody who actually generally prefers altos, actually, and I don't know that she's that, but her voice is just
She's
extraordinary to me.
everything.
Yeah,
She's
but
all
your
of
voice
it.
also is one where it's like you the way I would look at it almost is like if you stood on a stage and all you did was sing, everybody would be like, it's fine, right? I think like I need to bring something
That's a
else to the table.
huge
Does that make sense?
compliment.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
yeah, but your voice is awesome. I mean the first time I heard which one is it? Is it Prodigal Daughter? It might be.
yeah.
What's the one that you like do that real low note in the first, like the one first second line of the first
Deliver
verse?
me.
I just was like,
It's
Oh,
a really
and
low
then
note.
admittedly, I got massive, I got immediate massive imposter syndrome. But anyway,
Did you go check to
to
see
my,
which note it was?
to my, what was that?
Or did you check to see which note it was? You go on the
Which
keyboard, go
I
go
did not
see.
actually check, but that was because I still
Guarantee you
remember
can
when I
hit that
first
note.
listened to it. My wife was curious. She's like, "Oh, can I hear these people's music?"
Cool.
And I put it up on the TV, and it doesn't even have a sound bar, which is criminal in my mind. But that was the easiest way to put it up because YouTube. So I still remember like sitting there on the bed and being like, "Oh, wow, she can sing." So that's the only reason I remember that. But to my main point, like you are a vocalist first, so it to me like the best way for you to set yourself up as a songwriter
Hmm.
is of course you would think in melodies, and of course you would, and I do think in melodies, but like your strongest musical skill, I suppose, presumably, is as a vocalist,
Yeah.
right? Like you're a better vocalist than you are a
100%.
guitarist, you would say,
Yeah,
for
you
sure,
put me
right?
on a stage with a guitar and the bar is going to clear out real quick. I just can't hold attention with a guitar. Like I think it's a fun thing for me to be up there playing rhythm, in
Yeah.
the band and like playing some rhythm electric guitar. I can play an acoustic show and kind of get away
Hmm.
with it only because I've worked really hard at my voice. And so thank you
Yeah.
for that. I appreciate it. But you could
Yeah. No,
probably go up there with
you're
any
welcome.
with guitar or piano and I'd be like, "Wow."
And not guitar. Not
Not
guitar.
guitar.
This is actually what my point was going to be, which is like I'm much more of a pianist than a guitarist. The way I like to put it is nobody would ever want me to do lead guitar, but I'm a pretty decent rhythm guitar guy. So if I'm your
Okay.
second guitarist in a band and I sing, I'll probably have a place. But if you want me
Hired.
to be your lead guitar guy, nah, can't be
Yeah.
done. Like just I'm not that guy. Most of it's just like people overemphasize talent. To me, it's like what you pour into, right? You probably pour more into your vocals for several reasons, including the fact that you probably are like, this is the thing I'm most naturally gifted to do, so I should lean into that.
And
But
it like
my
comes with
songwriting,
a carrying case. Like
yeah,
it's
and you
easy.
become the star. You don't even have to do anything else. You show up, you sing, and nobody even knows the name of anybody else in your band, but they're like, Dana! But which there's nothing wrong with. I mean, I can't imagine ever not being a lead singer in any group I was in either. Even as somebody who just said like I feel like singing is not my like natural. I'm not even saying I'm bad at it. It's just like not my first thing, I guess. Like that's not the first thing that I
You
am.
have a
At this point, I
great
consider
voice
myself a
though.
writer first,
You have a
probably.
great
Well, I
voice.
appreciate that,
Really good
but
tone.
nothing compared to yours. But for piano, like the piano first songwriting thing, right? That's setting me up for success because
Hmm.
the thing I'm best at, you're a vocalist at heart, and I'm probably piano first. Like if I were to rank my skills in music, piano would be the first skill I would put up. And some people would disagree with me and say voice, which is I can't tell if it's insulting to my piano or if it's a compliment to my voice. But some people have made a
Just
face where I think they want to argue
receive the
with me.
love.
But
Right.
yeah. So it's yeah. But anyway, but for me, like if I sit with a guitar, I'm just more limited in what I can do and come up with. Like I can do finger picking, right? I did some classical lessons, and I can do picking with a pick, but like my chord like options on a guitar feels very limited because I don't really know the fretboard nearly as well as I should. I kind of know my scales, but I'm not great at it. But in front of a piano, it's like the world is my oyster. I understand the
Hmm.
keys and the notes, and I understand like, ooh, I can pretty quickly be like, oh, I'll try a minor four chord instead of a major four chord. I just like it. I can visualize it so much to the point that like I actually write my vocal melodies now almost exclusively with a keyboard. Now I'll sing along with it pretty
Ah.
shortly after, but it essentially comes down to like a couple of reasons. One is um, presumably if somebody has perfect pitch, this wouldn't apply. But I think for most of us, or especially those of us that are, not great singers or whatever, but like, fine singers or
You got
whatever,
relative pitch. Yeah.
you, you like you can't, you have an idea of the vocal range you're covering and what the vocal looks like, but you don't really see it in the way that you see it on a piano. So like
Hmm.
when you like presumably you could write a melody and be like, why is this boring? I can't tell. And then you play it on the piano and you're like, I stay within a fourth for the whole
Right.
song. Like
Well,
that's
you
why it's
think
boring.
that way. Yeah, you
Yeah,
think that way. I don't.
sure.
I don't think that way because I don't have that background. And that's one thing that I
Mm.
do want to like kind of nudge to your audience is that if you even if you don't have training, even if you don't know what a 154 chord progression is, like because I'm still learning the number system,
Yeah.
even if you don't know like what's major and what's minor, you just know if it sounds like happy or sad, like you can still write really good songs and you can still come up with really great melodies and it doesn't have to be on an instrument. But I do have a question about this because this is something that I am just as a solo artist and I don't currently have a band right now. So if I were to do a show, it would be really amazing hired guns that I like, people that I just love that I know are really good. And I know I could do a show right now with people that I know. But it's come down to, well, what do I need to spend my time doing? Do I need to get better at guitar? Do I need to get better at the piano? So that should I prioritize the piano? That way I can get better at MIDI production and things like that. Or do I just outsource this? You know? And so I'm curious for you because you do have this background and the people that you're talking to might not be a jack of all trades. Like you produce, you play two instruments, you sing, you're an incredibly thoughtful, like thought-provoking songwriter. Like, was there ever a point where you just had to pick one and excel at it, or did you do them all at the same time? And how do you prioritize your time when you feel like I'm supposed to be good at
That's such a
everything?
good question. Yeah. That's such a good question. I feel like the key thing is like lean into the things that you want to and that you because you want to minimize your weaknesses while you are making your strength stronger at the same time, right? But at some point there's like a practical element where um so for instance for me I tend to spend more time on piano than guitar because I feel like that's doubling down on the thing I'm already more naturally good at, and I think it is more of a standout thing because if you take sort of my sound in general, there's a lot more guitar people that do that than piano
Guitar
people.
guys, yeah,
So
sure,
like, there's fewer Five for Fightings than there are Goo Goo Dolls, and I'm not saying I love both those artists. I'm not saying there's a bunch of artists that sound like them, but like
yeah,
when you think
yeah.
of like piano-led kind of rock gets kind of big kind of stuff, like there's Five for Fighting, The Fray, and a few, but like the list starts to with guitar we
It's
could
like Ben Folds, yeah,
be talking for like a million years. Yeah, Ben Folds would be an example, I suppose. Um, it definitely is. I wouldn't compare him to me, but he is vaguely within that realm for sure. Um, yeah, so that's a part of it. A part of it too is um, it's such a big question that we could talk about for hours. But like, I I think too, it's being realistic about what level of skill is useful.
mm-hmm.
So, my a mentor of mine that mixes and masters my music, who's like better at everything than me. Maybe I'm a better vocalist than him. He would probably say that. He definitely has said that, and that maybe that's true. But he's a way better pianist than I am. He's a super successful songer. He's just great at everything. But uh, something he said to me is like, I said something about my piano skill, and he basically said to me like, well, for what you're doing, like you're not trying to be a classical pianist. You're more than good enough already, which is true, right? Like I never really feel like the piano limits me anymore. So I still like improve at
Okay,
it, but it's kind of like I've hit diminishing returns, essentially.
yeah,
Where like, yeah, if I became like if I went from my current skill to a full on classical could play concertos pianist, my songwriting would be totally unaffected by it. So it would kind of be a waste of time for me because I'm not trying to be a classical pianist. So I think that's a part of it. Whereas like
mm-hmm.
for you, for instance, like if you feel like right now you're on the edge of like, I don't even should I plug my guitar in like when I go on stage or should I just like leave it behind? Then maybe it makes sense, especially because like you can hire one fewer guitarist, presumably, if
Mm-hmm.
you can go up there and at least like crush the like bar
Just
chords or
carry the
whatever the like
rhythm, yeah.
most basic. I don't know why I said bar chords, power chords probably. The power chords or whatever the like most
Power
basic
chords for sure. Drop D.
core of
Everything's in
your
drop
song
D.
is. Everything's dropped. That makes it
No,
even
no,
easier.
not everything's in drop D,
So
but it does make it helpful.
yeah, it is helpful. Also,
Play
it
the whole
adds
song with
a
one finger.
richness.
Do 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 do.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah. So like in that case, right? That's actually a pretty big difference if you can hire only three other people or four other people instead of four or five, and it just like increases your value on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention like back to sort of the starting a song thing. I'm a huge believer in like finding different ways to start songs because they'll inspire you in different directions. So if every song I did just started with me sitting at an like my upright piano that's in my house, I would I'm inspired in a certain direction by the sound of that piano.
That's
But if I
fair.
pick up a guitar, I
Mm-hmm.
don't tend to write the same kind of songs. Now it's going to be still me, right? And you want that as an artist. You don't want to be like, here's my pop song and here's my country song and here's my rap song. That's, at some point it's like, okay, like figure out some sort of
Yeah.
identity here. But like
Taking
it's the
notes.
best example I can give is sort of like if you turn the distortion on versus you do clean tones, you probably play different, right?
Hmm.
Distortion's on, you
And you're
play
gonna get inspired
some
different because it's a feeling.
power exactly, and the power chords
Yeah.
sound great with the distortion, but usually if you go clean, all of a sudden the power chords are like ew,
Yeah,
right?
it sounds really thin.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've ever seen. Have you seen those YouTube videos? They have something like metal with no distortion, and it's people like jamming out to metal songs, and they just don't
And
have
they
the
took the
distortion on.
distortion off.
It's the funniest thing in the world. Well, not it's not that funny. The
Oh
funniest thing in
no,
the
that's
world
probably
is
that would break my
a different
heart.
video, but
I would be so
so
sad.
it is really sad. But
That's like ruining your favorite songs. You can't
but
unhear that.
yeah, well, I could unhear it, but yeah, maybe it's a trap. But I reckon it's just like a good thing to like illuminate the importance of the sound of a thing, right?
Yeah.
I love Hans Zimmer for many reasons. One of the reasons I love Hans Zimmer is I think he's the first film composer, or at least the first one to, in a popular way, to use be intentional about like sound design and what
Hmm.
instruments he used. Because like, it's not a criticism of John Williams, but like every John Williams piece I hear sounds like John Williams. It's got a
Sure.
melody and then a basic orchestra to back it up. And
Sure.
there's a few maybe that throw a wrinkle in there, but for the most part, it's like it sound. And his writing style tends to sound. Again, it's great. And
And there's
Star
a
Wars is my
place
favorite
for
soundtrack of
that.
all time. So not
Yeah, my stuff is kind of
100%.
like that too, and I'm okay with it. And I might expand, and I might not. Who knows? But there's
Yeah.
a place for it. But I do appreciate what you're talking about is like being diverse because starting with
Hmm.
something diverse is going to kind of change the trajectory of the inspiration as a
Yeah.
whole. And so, yeah, I did just get a MIDI controller so that I can play more with that because the MIDI controller takes up this much space and my keyboard on my
Yes.
desk takes up the entire, so I have to like reach
Oh
over
yeah.
the key. And so just I have not set myself up for success with learning the keys and playing differently. And it
Yeah.
is, and it's the gap. I can't remember. It was my former bassist who told me there's an actual quote about it, but it's the gap between what you can hear or visualize and your skill set to make it happen.
Yes. That's a perfect
So
way to word it.
that is the gap. And I'm like, how can I clear that gap as easy as
Yeah,
possible? So
because
for
that's your
me,
songwriting bottleneck, essentially, right? That's
yes,
the thing that's preventing
yes,
you from
that's
getting to the
where the
next level, which
skill
is the thing you need to
bottlenecks
clear.
for the vision. Yeah. And so for me, what it looks like right now is outsourcing and
Mm.
partnering with people. And so I signed up for Musiversal. I'm not sponsored by them, but hey, if they're listening, go for it. Um, but so far it's been incredible. And so I can go and write like a really like I just am really honest with my notes like, hey, I'm a terrible guitar player. Here's how I tune the guitar. Um, and it's really sloppy. So if you have any questions, here's your steps. Yay. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much better. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm on Logic, direct in the box, trying to figure out like how do I make a good guitar sound? I don't even have an amp. Like I don't know. I'm just fumbling around over here, but the riff in my head sounds amazing.
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
can't get it out there. So it's like, okay, well, how can I bridge that gap? How can I widen that
Mm.
bottleneck? I'm like, okay, maybe I need a MIDI controller. That way I can play the distinct rhythm because I can't get my fingers to do it. The distinct rhythm.
Yep.
Maybe it's a different sound. Maybe it's just got a little bit of distortion. It's got like a buzz, like a saw or something that's got that distortion, like gritty feeling to it. But they'll
Yeah.
understand. I hear the rhythm on the right because I can hit a button on the right thing, and I can adjust MIDI and quantize that a little bit better than trying to figure out what's going on with my guitar situation. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's my adjustment now. But I
You
appreciate
also,
the encouragement to start different. So that is actually encouraging instead
yeah.
of just starting with guitar to just like let's just play around with the MIDI controller. Let's every once in a while. Maybe four times we do just guitar and then the fifth time every time around we'll start with the MIDI and just to nudge me in that direction.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
something you can do too is like when you feel like something's not coming with a certain instrument, go to a different instrument. So that's what
Oh,
I'll
that
do.
makes
I'll like
sense.
I'll get the most out of the piano I can. But if I'm at a point where like I'm improvising at the piano for like an hour and just everything
Right.
is like I feel like I've done that before, I feel like I've done that. It doesn't mean I've done everything before. It just means I got to change something up. So it can be as
Yeah.
simple as like change the freaking sound to an organ sound, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh. Or it might be grab the guitar, or
Yeah.
grab the bass and just write a bass line. Or sometimes I'll just like you change the mental pivot where like instead of writing a piano riff, where I usually am thinking about like some sort of interesting melodic or arpeggio like thing in the right hand, and usually like a bass line kind of thing in the left hand. Instead, it's just like no, straight up write a bass line. Use my left hand, just improvise until I find a great bass line. And those sorts of things can. And another thing is like a drum. Like just get a basic drum loop. Like
Mm-hmm.
one time I'm like, I never write catchy songs. And for the most part, I never want that to be my main thing anyway. But I just wanted it to be like, let's change it up. So I just like went on a website with like free drum loops or whatever, found a funk one, and improvised to it. And then I wrote a
Nice.
funky sounding song because like you can't listen to like a bossa nova beat and not write something that sounds
Right.
bossa nova esque or funk, whatever it is.
That's
So like finding,
great.
do you have any like things like that where like you kind of push yourself in a
I've
certain direction with like
yeah.
limits or with like certain tools that you use? Is there anything you do like that?
Honestly, this is gonna sound really strange, but sometimes I'll just leave the room. Like I'll just leave the room. Like I will like, and it's an ear break for sure, but literally changing your environment does stop whatever loop is happening. And just neurologically that happens, and it's helped me with anxiety and rumination. So I'm just like, I'm going on a walk. Maybe I'll see a dog. And that has helped tremendously. But also, I know this is, and I'm just not a great guitar player, but a capo can change things so instantly for me. Like if
100%.
I change it and I make it really high, I play the exact same chords, but I make it really high, all of a sudden my melody is in a different register, and
Mm-hmm.
I might shift some things, or I put it so high that I like dropped it and I'm like, "Oh, I'm tuning the whole guitar down half a step. That was awesome." And I did on a recent song. So
Interesting.
that's something that helps as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say more often than not, and I don't know if this is helpful or if it's me getting frustrated and giving up on the song, but I switch songs. I'll just switch songs.
100%.
Yeah,
So
okay.
important.
I was like, he's gonna maybe, but I have to like give me a
No,
different vibe.
huge
Give me a
believer in that.
completely different vibe. Usually, I'll switch time signatures too, so I'll go from like
Yep.
4/4 to 6/8 or 3/4 or something like that, just to give me a completely different vibe, or even a different theme, like
Mm-hmm.
lyrically, like what am I singing about? Um, and that tends to help kind of, and then the obvious thing is like listen to some music, like just listen to some
Yes.
music that's not
Shut up
even
and
mine,
listen. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
just go listen to something. Yeah, go listen to something that's radically different. Go listen to some French house music. Like go do that. And um and I was also in a wedding band, in an international wedding band, for like 10 years. And so I'm very much inspired by like Persian music. And so sometimes you'll find that I have
Interesting.
like weird sevenths, and like I write a lot in 6/8, and so it's like there's random things that pop up. You're like, where did that come from? Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fine, don't worry about it. But I'm
Yeah,
just so
no,
used to
that's
like,
to me that's the magic. That's the magic, right? I'm a big fan
yeah,
of I haven't thought of like a term for it, but it's something like subtly different. I like the idea that a lot of people could listen to my song a million times over and just be like, yeah, it's a song, and not even notice that like I did several things that actually they probably haven't heard before, whether it be a lyrical thing or even like the
yeah,
concept I said of like a finale. A lot of people you might not notice when you listen to the song. Like you heard Flightless. I don't even you heard me do it like four times.
mhm,
And you might not have even put together like, oh, he has that one section that's just at the end, and it's this massive thing. But like a lot of people just are like, it was a song and it made me feel things. They don't think about the fact that like that was actually pretty different. Not many songs do that sort of thing. Or
that's
like
what I
the
was
music
thinking.
concept you
I
were
was
just
like,
talking
whoa, his
about, like with the
structure's way
seventh or
different.
whatever.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
no,
not
I did
everybody's gonna
actually
notice that,
notice. I was
right?
like,
And there's almost
yeah,
as a songwriter, you're gonna be more inclined to for sure. But some people won't. And something I said early that I think resonates with the thing you were saying is like, don't be afraid to have your brilliance be lost on people. Not in like an arrogant way, like, oh, I'm so brilliant,
sure.
but like that interesting Persian thing. Like most people are never gonna notice that, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because it still
Right.
makes your sound, and they love your
Yeah.
sound. It doesn't really matter why. And you know, I don't know how many people are going to love it because of that, right? But usually they will love it because of this combination of things. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said the whole like change songs, because I'm such a huge believer in that. Like even
Yeah.
context changing with, because you mentioned like leaving the room, even that.
Yeah.
Sometimes like me and you talking about songwriting, if I'm in a rut, might help me get out of songwriting just because like we talked about it, or going listen to Hans Zimmer and be like, I love music again. I stopped loving
Yeah.
music because I'm so frustrated with this song. And then like, you know, it's just like if you have a bad day at work and you're in a bad mood, and then you go home and you try to write that cute love song, like that might not
Good
work.
luck.
You know, it might be a little better to write that angry breakup song. Now you didn't
Yeah.
break up with anybody at work that day, but like, you know, different days you're just inspired in different ways. And kind
Yeah.
of
And
connecting it
that's
to what I said before is like there's just always, if you always have a bunch of songs you're writing at once, to me it doesn't matter. So I'm never worried about the songs. Like some songs in a way took, you know, 8 years to finish,
mhm.
but I wasn't actively working on them for 8 years. It more is just like I didn't just have the pieces, and I revisited the song a few times, built a little more. Just, but if you're constantly writing 20 different songs at once, I would say I probably average that. I usually have like 6 to 10 that are like actively working on, and then like another 10 that are like, yeah, once in a while I'll dabble with that one. And usually it depends on which project it's supposed to be part of, right? If it's the next project, I spend a little more time on it. But
Right.
the beauty of that is that almost always is one of those songs that's going to resonate with you enough that you can make progress on it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't put any pressure on one song where it's like, I have one song left in this album and I need to write one song for this album, so I have to make
It's
this song work.
too much
I never want to
pressure.
be in that position.
It's too much pressure. What I will say that
Yeah.
just jogged my memory is that now that I'm working with Musiversal, I'm sending them like session materials and like here's the chart, and so I know that I actually need to have these things sorted out before our session, so it does force me to work on that specific
Mm.
project. So one thing that has helped me is if I've had like a really good day and the song that I'm going to work on is like not, it's not a happy song. It's really funny. That's what's so interesting to me too, is like people are like, wait, you do rock? I'm like, yeah. And I have tattoos and I ride a Harley. Like, yeah. And they're like, but you're so bubbly. And I'm like, and?
That's so
And
funny.
I also experience like anxiety and
Yeah.
depression and rumination and a lot of other letters. So, like,
Yeah.
yes. And people aren't just one way. And, but I do know that I have started creating playlists, not just for reference tracks, but to actually like create that momentum so that it flows out of me. So I'm like, while I'm listening to music just randomly, I'm like, okay, well, this song reminds me of what I might want to do with the production for this other song,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I randomly went back to like System of a Down, like Toxicity and
Nice.
Aerials, but it's like this is awesome. And now I'm like, and so it puts me in that mode. But I think the other thing is like once that momentum is going in that direction, I can feel myself kind of molding to it. So I have to be very
Mm.
careful with the input. The more I consume, the more I kind of conform, and I don't want to go down that route.
I love
So
that.
what
I
it's
agree.
like, ugh. And so now I got to figure out. That's why I'm really happy about these other professionals. I'm like, I know this sounds a lot like System of a Down right now. I need it to sound like Prodigal Daughter. How can we get
Mm.
some like swagger in there that doesn't sound um, like this other stuff? And so that's why I'm like, sometimes it's collaboration that
Yeah.
will break whatever I'm stuck in. But it's so
Sometimes I'll stop
helpful.
listening to music. I just don't listen to music because then I have
Listen to a
no
book or
nothing.
watch a YouTube or something or other. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you have no
And
input, so it's all fresh.
yeah, there's
That's
a lot of
smart.
people that I know who don't even like music, who listen to way more music than me because they use it as background noise. And I'm not saying I never do. Although I usually can't listen to songs with lyrics with background as back
I
because it just
can't.
distracts me too much.
Yeah.
But also, like, I
Thank
have
you. Thank you for
intentionally just
saying
like
that.
gone months where I just don't listen to music because I
Hmm.
don't want to be too influenced by it. And I think
Yeah.
most of the time I'm not, but like sometimes you are, right? Where it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, boy, my songs are starting to sound more and more like Goo Goo Dolls because I've listened to them the most in the last 2 months or whatever. And so sometimes I'll just like not listen to music, which I know is probably unconventional advice. Most songwriter types say a couple of things that I don't necessarily resonate with. One is like, oh, you got to listen to all kinds of music all the time. like there's value to listening to different types of music. So I agree with that part, but the like
Yeah.
all the time part is the part that I'm like, no. And then like there's also the sense of like as a songwriter you're supposed to like love all music, which I definitely don't. I definitely don't agree with that. To me, as a songwriter, shouldn't you dislike much more music than most because you care about the craft, and by definition most of anything is average, and why would you love average? I don't know. That's a whole other rabbit hole,
I
but
think respecting effort and liking something is different.
that's true too. That's true too. I definitely have, which is interesting because I people get so mad about this, which is so funny to me because I feel like they must not understand what I'm saying because people call it arrogant, and I'm like, I think it's the opposite of that. Where like my whole thing is like we should be able to separate I like X and X is good because they're not the same, right? So for example, my favorite band of all time is Vertical Horizon, bar none. It's not
Awesome.
close. Whoever's number two is a competition of like Breaking Benjamin, Pose of the Fall, Five for Fight, and Goo Goo Dolls. Those are all fighting out for the second spot. But there's a decent enough gap that I feel comfortable that since the day I discovered Vertical Horizon in the like summer of sophomore year of high school,
Yeah.
the day I discovered them, they became my favorite band, and they have spent 0 seconds not my favorite band since. I would never say that they're the best band, and I'm not saying they're not. I'm just admit that me liking something, like my favorite movie and what I think the best movie is, that should at least be able to be a different thing. So like there's music that I like where I would never tell people it's good, and there's music I like that I would say is good. And then there's music I don't like that I can admit is good, I just don't like it. But so many
Mm-hmm.
people get so upset and they're like, Taylor Swift is good because I like Taylor Swift. And it's like that's the arrogant opinion that like whatever you like is good and what you don't like is bad. Like we should
Right.
never conflate those two things. We should be able to have like parallel discussions about, even at a smaller level. I think we should be able to say, here are all the things good about this song,
Mm-hmm.
and and here are some of the things that I think are not very good about this song. And we should even be able to say like, I kind of like this. It's not very good, but like I kind of like that lyric even though it's cheesy. Or like on the music side, this is technically really good and I love the creativity, but it just didn't resonate with me. We should be able to have those discussions and not make it so like, to me it's more ego driven when people insist that what they like is good and,
Mm.
and like good and like are synonymous,
Yeah.
and they like conflate an objective statement from a subjective statement, which is getting deep deep philosophical.
No, I
uh,
love it. But that applies to so many
but
things. It applies to
yeah,
so many things in life. And I think that's something that I've been working on, just with like the whole world being in flames and also very hopeful at the same time, is how to
yeah,
disagree well.
mm,
And, like Baskin Robbins has like the 31 flavors, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think 19 is jealous of like 33. Not 33.
yeah,
You get what I'm saying though. It's
yeah,
not like just because you really love pistachio ice cream does not mean it's my favorite ice cream. Do I think
yeah,
it's creative to put pistachios in ice cream? Absolutely. Is it tasty on certain things? Yes. Is it my go-to? No.
yeah,
Not no. And so it comes down to preference. And also I think there's this other thing that people do with music that I love, that I used to do, that I still kind of do but not as much, is when you relate so hard with music, you feel so seen, so heard by that artist, by those lyrics, that is your persona. So insulting that
yeah,
music is insulting yourself because now you feel seen, heard, and loved by
mm,
Taylor Swift. She's an everyman and a lover, right? So she's that, like, I want everybody to understand, and I'm talking about things you've gone through, and I
mm,
am speaking out in the way that you wish you could for that sassy ex-boyfriend or whatever. And that, like, that's a part of their persona, and so when you insult that, you're insulting them, and it's so personal. So
that's
it's
interesting.
like, and is there room to allow people to have that deep personal preference where they're so loyal that they are offended when you don't like it?
Yeah.
I don't know. As a musician, I like to say that it's
See, I think the
open.
problem is that they do get offended, right? So, like,
Right.
sometimes I famously, and by famously, I mean among this, everybody here is probably laughing that we're talking about Taylor Swift because I make no secret that there's no love lost between, I do not care for Taylor Swift. And I'm not saying she's bad or there's a couple songs that are recent that I'm like, oh, wow, she grew. And So I make no comment about how
I'm
good she was.
just not
I
that
don't even pretend
familiar.
to
I
know
just don't.
at
It's
this
not my
point.
jam.
What I know is that dis everything I've heard of her, which is most of her old stuff, but of her old stuff, I can't stand any of it. But people get so upset about it. Like she's some master that everybody needs to. She's like a sacred cow. You can't. It's like her and the Beatles. You can't say anything about. You can't have an opinion other than like, oh, I worship thee. And it's so wild to me because
I'll
it's
fight for the
like
Beatles, though.
I love Vertical Horizon, right? And
Yeah.
to your point, the main reason that I have such a love for Vertical Horizon is I've joked Matt Scannell's the lead singer songwriter, just for context. I've joked that he's my spirit animal, and I'm not a spirit animal guy. But my
Right.
point is the way he like, if any ex of mine or if my wife is curious how I feel about what it feels like to be rejected. If anybody's curious, just listen to Vertical Horizon and you know how I process it, right? Like, because it's exactly the same.
Right.
Like his tone, just the way this combination of like he's mad and bitter and also sad, and the tension that he draws between them is exactly usually like my vein, where like
Yeah.
really it's probably mostly sad, but it uses this bitterness, and you are bitter and you're kind of like, how dare you. So his blend of it that he tends to bring to songs, and not that all their songs are about that, they're not, but
I'm gonna have to
just the
listen to
way
it
he
again.
processes, it's like me and this guy would get along so well. I don't know him. I've met him several times, and he's a super nice. He's one of those people where it's like you can meet him if he's your hero, which he's mine, and he's a great guy, in conversation. But anyway, uh, so it always it's just a wild thing to me that if somebody said like that. I might be a little upset if somebody said Vertical Horizon is bad because now they're making an objective claim that I don't think is true. But if somebody says that they hate Vertical Horizon, I couldn't care less. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. But
so
you
I don't
also
really
have.
understand when people get like super
Yeah.
mad, like you don't like my artist. It's like I don't. I mean, what? First
Yeah.
of all,
Because
why
it.
would I like
Yeah.
Taylor Swift? Look at me. I'm a 33-year-old married man with 2 kids. What part of me would resonate with a 38-year-old woman who's still complaining about breakups like she's 18? Like, and I guess she does more than that. Everybody's
Yeah.
mad, and now there's the hate comments,
Sure.
threaten to curb stomp me or whatever. But like over Taylor
Dang.
Swift. But like, of course I don't resonate with Taylor Swift.
Right.
Nothing about me would resonate
Yeah.
with Taylor Swift, of course. But like people still get like mad about it, and it's like I wouldn't expect a teenage girl to resonate with Vertical Horizon because that's
Right.
not like. So
Right.
I don't understand when people get super hurt
Yeah,
about
it
that.
brings me back to
But
that compassion
yeah,
before commentary thing too, because I think those folks that are diehard
I
loyalists,
should work on that.
even with sports teams, you have to think about,
Oh yeah,
because with you, you're very rooted. Like you know who you are. Like your identity is outside of your preferences. Your identity is outside of Vertical Horizon or Angel Food
sure.
Cake or you know whatever. So like you're not going to be so terribly offended. And so if the biggest thing you have going for you is your favorite artist or your favorite football team, that's
That
the
makes sense.
external validation of yourself. And if somebody is invalidating who you feel you are, your biggest loyalty, your biggest thing about you, that can be a pretty sensitive situation. And that's the way I've tried to look at it. Is like, ooh, they
Yeah,
have outsourced their identity to something else. So that's going to
which is
be,
sad.
yeah, that's going to be some eggshells right there. And it's not,
Yeah,
I think that's a really challenging way to live. And I think I've lived so much people
sure.
pleasing, so I think that's the only reason. Spot it, you got it. Like that's the only reason I can recognize
Yeah,
it. Is like, if somebody didn't like
yeah.
what I liked,
As
then
you can
I
probably tell,
am
I'm not much of a people pleaser. So
right. Oh man,
can't
because I
resonate
just
with
wanted
those much.
everybody to like me and make it like, am I okay? Do I exist okay? Am I doing all right? Did I
Yeah,
make you mad? And so if somebody didn't like what I liked, it was like, if they don't like what I like, then they're probably judging me for liking what I like, and therefore I'm less than them, and they probably don't like me now.
wow.
Yeah, it's a
That
slippery
took a lot of
slope.
steps real quick. Yeah, wow.
It is a slippery slope when you're living in insecurity and outsourcing your
Yeah,
identity to somebody else and external validation. That's hard. And so that's why I'm like trying to jump into compassion first because I'm like, oh, I
yeah.
see where that would happen. But I'm just like, I love psychology and neuroscience and understanding people. I think it was a coping mechanism first to understand like how to not get harmed. And now it's like, okay, well, how can I help? And which is cool. and how I can help is not getting curb stomped by Taylor Swift fans. I would be kind of blown away. That doesn't seem like the demographic that would do some curb
No,
stomping, but
I
who
don't know.
knows?
You would be surprised. They get.
They're so serious.
I mean, yeah, I mean, to be fair, Taylor Swift is kind of the main scapegoat I've used of just like an example of
Was this the near death threat
just
you were telling
something
me
I'm not a
about?
huge
Was it
fan
from
of.
a Swiftie?
No, the death threat was from, I don't even know what that person's problem is. Well, I
Okay.
mean, I have a lot, but they certainly never made it clear what specifically they took issue with.
Okay.
Yeah, and to be clear, like just in general, right? There's a difference between haters and people with like feedback that maybe
Yeah.
you need, right? Because
Sure.
sometimes you are wrong about things or whatever, and tons of people will say that in a perfectly acceptable way. And sometimes it's even fine to be angry, right? If somebody, especially like when you say something with conviction, that tends to elicit more anger than when somebody just like,
Sure.
oh, maybe, right? So just the way I go about things is always going to elicit a little bit more fire from people, right? Because you get what you bring, which is totally fine, totally fair. But hater to me is like when somebody just like, I don't even know if they could articulate just everything about you, is just or their idea of you. Usually it's just
Sure.
your idea of you, which is funny because you're talking about the persona thing, and I do find it funny. Like everybody's always surprised that like comedians are some of the most depressed people, or like the way I've always thought of it is I will always treat my music with seriousness, and but I do not treat myself with like I'm in most rooms I'm first or second most likely to crack jokes and not take myself seriously, but I do take the craft seriously of songwriting, right? Those two don't have to be the same.
Great.
So it's amazing to me how many people like think everybody's like one dimensional. And it's like no, not at all. Like I cracking jokes in the context of a song, not a thing I'm gonna do much if ever.
Yeah, I'm not.
In real life though, like yeah, who wants to be around
Yeah.
my songs probably lean a little philosophical, but like you don't want to be around somebody who like just always is leaning philosophical in everyday conversation. Like that
Yeah.
would bore me at some point. I love
Yeah.
that stuff, but like at some
Nobody's
point it's
gonna
like, can
wanna.
we just
Yeah.
hang and play a freaking board game and laugh about something?
Exactly.
So
Like, do you want to
yeah,
listen to me talk about like rumination, anxiety, and scrupulosity and OCD? Like, no, nobody wants to hear
for
that.
24 hours straight. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not like that all the time. I think that's the
Yeah.
interesting part is like I think about music, each song is a snapshot. Each song is a snapshot. It's a moment
Yeah.
in time. It is a scene, it is a season. It's just a feeling. And sometimes I'll take that feeling that I'm having and it might just be like okay, I have a little grudge, but I'll take it in a song and expand it into like a massive resentment just to express it. And that's the alchemy in it is like that's when you process it and you get it out. And some people are like that sounded like a really angry song. I was like, yeah, I was a little mad, but I really wasn't that upset. They're like, you sounded, and I'm like, I get it,
It sounds like it sounds
So
like you're
it's
going down the same direction that like something I thought of recently is I treat every song as if it's fiction. And what I mean by that is I never am slave to what the real situation that inspired it is. So it's like if this is vaguely inspired by your breakup and you're kind of ticked about it, that doesn't mean you have to be slave to like I was 22 and I saw you in the coffee shop, which first of all, nobody cares about those details. So probably shouldn't have those in the song, but ignoring that, like nobody cares. Right. So like
yeah,
make the song as good as it can be. And if you just treat everything like it's fiction, you also kind of avoid one of the things I don't care about, don't care for about at least old Taylor Swift, where it felt to me like she like low key wanted to throw people publicly under the bus,
by
like
name.
her exes. And that, like, to me is super classless. And if anything,
Yeah,
I want to be like in the opposite direction of like, you know, certainly people who like knew me in my life probably would know, at least certain songs who it is about, but not because
sure.
I provide details, just because they know, like,
They know
in
your
my
life.
case, I have one ex and then my wife. So it doesn't take much to know what probably inspires something. But like, at the same time, I've written tons of breakup songs since being happily married because you're not slave to your current situation, right? You can
Yeah.
reflect back on things that happened to you. You can take things that are happening to friends of yours or things you even hear about
I wrote a
and bring that
great
to your
breakup
songwriting.
song about my friend who's going through a breakup.
Yeah.
really good breakup song, and just and
Yeah.
it's listening, and I've heard other people's stories of loss, and I've you can create a beautiful song, so it doesn't have to be first person. I think the other thing when I'm writing a song that's personal, and I did get stuck in that trap, is like it has to be authentic. That's not what happened. And I was
Hmm.
recently in a couple months ago in a writing session with Wendy Parr, and she said, "Never let the truth ruin a good song."
It's a
I
great,
was like,
great line.
because she talks about how artists are like, but that's not what happened. She's like, what's
Hmm.
serving the song? So the
Yeah.
songwriters serve the song serves
Yeah.
the artist serves the audience. Your job right now is not to serve yourself, it's to serve the song. I was like, oh man, okay. It was really
Yeah.
helpful though. And the good news is, I still get to be authentic, but it widened the guardrails. I wasn't so rigid in that I have to describe this exactly as it happened, or was I really feeling this way, or was I not? I get to expand, and that's actually very freeing as a songwriter, because it's still that alchemy, and but it's still like that healing portion for me, and I still get to put it, still get to put it out there, which I think is just wonderful. So you also write songs from other people's perspectives?
Yeah. To me, it's just like if you can find anything that resonates with you, write it. Like, so for
Yeah.
example, Flightless, which is, I believe, my current best song. That's the one you heard. That
I didn't
song
know
is from
birds
the
could be
point of
so
view.
inspirational, but like
Yeah,
you
well, it's
nailed
not
it.
about the bird. Is the
But
even though it centers around
but
the
it
bird,
is
but
about the bird, but it's
it
not.
is and isn't. Yeah,
It's
exactly,
great.
exactly. But it's about an old man who has Alzheimer's, who was, well, implied to have Alzheimer's, I should say, who is. I mean, it's a combination of things, right? But it's sort of like in his old age, he still is not being selfish, and he's like
Wow.
the juxtaposition why it's called flightless is the bird is flightless, but it can heal and fly again. He is flightless, and he knows he will never fly again because it's just a matter of age and time. And yet, he still is willing to sacrifice and put his time into the bird. And he takes true joy. Like the final part of the song is, "You've got the wings to fly, so carry on your way. No need to stay with me. I've had my day. I
Mm-hmm.
wish that I could soar and get away from here, but every journey ends and I have no fear." So it's like the juxtaposition of like, of course he wishes he could fly again, but he's not begrudging the youth, or the bird is like operating as a symbol just for, whatever. The way I visualize it is, it's like, who do you want to be when you're on your deathbed? Do you want to be the one who, like, when your grandkids and great grandkids are in the room, yes, of course you want to talk to them, but unselfishly, they're 10 minutes in, they're starting to
Yeah.
like get restless, and you genuinely want to see them go play outside with each other, and yeah, you'd like to talk to them for longer, but like you also want them to live, and you take true joy, and even though you can't go outside with them, you can watch and like take joy that their lives are going to continue without you, not because you don't want your life to continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that like natural tension that is so real, I think.
But that's
but
so wise and
um
so loving too. So I
but
because
the
of the
point is,
brain
I'm
health.
not that,
Yeah.
right? I'm a
Yeah.
33-year-old dude who, at the time, I wrote that song probably when I was like 26, 27. So to like go to your question, that song was like a mixture of like taking different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a combination of, I had one grandparent pass from Alzheimer's. I think I wrote it before he passed. I can't quite remember, but that was a song that was written over probably a year and a half. So it might have started before he died, and then that sort of thing. And then I had another that passed away with like fast moving dementia. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, my wife and I were, 3 years in of like trying to have a kid and it not working. So I was like wrestling with like, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
So the song was sort of like exploring what I think someone at the end, facing death with dignity and still doing the right thing, looks like. Not in a preachy way, just in like who would I want to be?
Yeah.
And the old man and the bird just happened to be like the symbolic way to tell that story. I realize in retrospect, one of my favorite movies is Gladiator, and a famous line from it is the "Death smiles upon us all. All a man can do is smile back." And I realized, like, oh, my song "Flightless" that I love so much is kind
It
of that
captures
quote
that.
embodied.
Wow.
Which is just by coincidence. I didn't realize that until like a couple months ago, weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, it just seems to me like, why limit ourselves to, because there's so many different inspirations, right? And
Mm-hmm.
another song is one that is, um, like I know what it feels like to lose somebody, like a grandparent, to death. And I also know what it feels like to be broken up with and feel like somebody that you used to love in a romantic way you may never see again. If you put those things together, you should be able to write a song from the point of view of an old man who has lost his wife and he misses her, because the death part you have from on one side, and then the love of, and between those two things, you can you should be able to put yourself in that person's shoes accurately enough to write from their point of view.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that is just, again, a guy happily married with a freaking third kid on the way. Nobody wants to hear me just like write love songs for my kids for the next 7 years.
Right.
I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to. I bore myself. And so I think it's so important as an artist for us to learn to like look outside ourselves,
Yeah.
even just for the sake of our art. But I keep wanting to return to two things, so I'm gonna super unnaturally pivot because the bridge thing was like an hour ago, and it's still a great thing that we should revisit.
Let's go.
The other thing was like you mentioned something about like limitations, and we were talking about like, the bottleneck concept.
Yeah.
Another thing that fascinates me, my favorite story about this is Johnny Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls. He, I don't know how well you know the Goo Goo Dolls, but almost all their songs are like different guitar tunings, to the point that like if you go to a Goo Goo Dolls show,
They have
he will
12
get
guitars in the
new
back.
guitar almost every song, because it's just each one is different tuning. The reason he did that is because, according to him, he is not much of a guitarist. So the way he could get interesting guitar sounds was not like he wasn't good enough to get interesting guitar sounds, so he engineered it by using guitar tunings. And that's the fundamental like Goo Goo Dolls
Wow.
sound. I mean the songwriting, of course.
That
But
they
like the
do
part
have
of the
interesting
fundamental
voicings. I
sound,
didn't know that's why.
exactly, like Iris. You don't get Iris. You can't play Iris correctly without some, I don't
I
even know what the
tried
tuning
it.
is, something crazy.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, because it's not going to sound right, because it's some, I think the tuning is something where like every string is B except for one, which is like C sharp. I'm probably totally wrong, but it's something crazy like that. So it's not even like, oh, it's open D, or it's I don't know, Nashville
Dadgad or
tuning or
something,
drop
yeah.
D or anything like, or Dadgad. It's none of those, right? It's like he
Whoa.
made up a tuning. And also, by the way, I tried that once. Inspired a song that at the time I thought was really good. Now, I wrote it when I was 18, so it's it's got good spots and bad spots. But at the time, it was like in my top couple songs. I think just because it inspired in a direction that a standard tuned guitar just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't.
I wrote it down.
So,
I've,
yeah,
I've got to do it
so-
now.
yeah, that was meant to become a question somewhere in there, but I lost.
No,
where
it's a
that was.
solid workaround. I
So-
appreciate it. And you were talking about the bridge too.
Yeah. The bridge. It's just everything you said is just so like, speaking my language. I think the answer to why the bridge died is mostly like a laziness and a time thing, like people's attention span, which is super tragic.
Yeah.
Because I've always felt. It sounds like you probably would agree with this, but I think I did even a whole episode. My argument is that the bridge is the X factor of a song, and the reason is because a chorus must be good. Like if your song has any shot at all in any sense of the word, assuming it has a chorus, let's just assume most songs have a
Right.
chorus.
A
Let's
lot of
assume.
songs are just verse hook now, and that's their structure. I'm
That's-
like, whoa.
Which then could get into a discussion. What's the difference between a hook and a
Hook
chorus?
and a chorus,
But
sure.
Hook chorus, we'll lump them together for the sake of discussion. But so the hook / the chorus, that has to be right. I mean, that's your song lives and dies almost mostly
Gotta
by
be
that.
good.
And the verse is kind of like the start of the song, which usually is like you could lose somebody before you even get to the chorus.
Sure.
So you kind of have to have a good chorus. So a chorus does make or break your song, sort of, but it also doesn't, because that's just the thing that must be. To me, the biggest opportunity to stand out in a more or less standard song structure is a great bridge. Like, how many bridges out there are super phoned in? They have like 2 lines that are like, ugh, you just are filling space. There's lots of those. But then there's
Probably
songs that,
my
like,
bridges.
everything
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
changes.
Yeah.
I
I'm
know.
okay with it. But I also have some really killer bridges.
Yeah, but like a killer bridge to me is like what can really make a song, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like most people don't give them any love, to the point that they don't even write them anymore.
Right.
So it's like such a lost opportunity to like,
Yeah.
especially like a bridge is a song section. You can take such a radical departure. You can like change key, and you can anywhere, right? But realistically,
Of course.
usually a verse
The
and your
bridge is the
chorus
spot.
are-
Yeah.
But the bridge is where you can go into like a different mode, or you can go to the relative minor, or you can just like
Yeah.
one bridge I wrote fairly recently that I'm still working on. It like just devolves into, it's not even in a key anymore because all the movements are like, for a little while I go into chromaticism, and it's meant to be this like tension of like conflicts because the whole song's been very consonant so far. So now it's
Yeah.
this like, whoa, borrowed chord, whoa, borrowed chord. What key are we even in anymore? And then it comes back to the consonants. But like a bridge is such an opportunity, and people
Hmm.
just don't. Um, I don't know. They don't take enough advantage of it. Speaking of
I
which,
th-
it yeah, go ahead.
I think people are obsessed with what's catchy so that it can go
Yeah.
viral.
Mm.
And maybe lost the art of storytelling because they think it's about attention span. And I actually want to challenge that. I don't necessarily think it's about attention span, although
Mm.
people are paying attention less and less, which is very true. I
True.
think because there is so much. We are bombarded all the time through everything. That's not necessarily that our attention span has shortened, that our filters have gotten way better. We
Mm.
just don't have the time for it anymore. Nope, I know what that is. Nope, I
Interesting.
know what that is. Nope, I know what that is. Our filters have gotten very good. And so people are trying to grab attention by just being catchy. Just having, and I
Mm.
did it with Deliver Me. Oh, I'm like, I'm going to hit them with something they can sing along with
You
immediately.
casually singing sounds great. I
But it's something. And so I'm like,
I,
and I'm okay
you
with
didn't even
like,
really warm up, and you just like it sounds great. It's great.
thank you, sir. Um, but I'm like, I'm very understanding that I'm playing the game and I had to be okay with
Mm.
that. But I'm like, if
Mm.
I'm starting off as a solo artist, I might have to play the game for a little while, right? I might have to get the catchy riff, get the catchy hook, get the repetitive chorus. And I've done that for a couple songs. And then I can start, but the depth of the lyrics is what's going to hopefully keep them. The change in the
Mm.
bridge where it's like, oh, she just went from condemning them to asking for forgiveness in this song. Okay, plot twist, So it's like I will play the
Mm.
game at first, but
Good
like
plot
let's
twist.
take it a little bit deeper. And I think I kind of want to challenge myself as a songwriter to not just go for the catchy thing that's all about attention span or what can go viral, but like what is captivating emotionally enough that it will hold someone's attention. And that comes
Mm.
down to what are people going through right now? What do they need help with? What are they feeling that they can't express? What do they need to say? And what needs to be said to them that maybe people are not saying to them? And
Mm.
sometimes it's encouragement, and sometimes it's like you need to get it together, Betty. So how can we communicate that? How can we really like resonate
Mm.
rather than just catch attention with ploys and shiny bait? You know,
Do you yeah. Do you think about the listener when you write a song?
sometimes, like with Deliver Me,
Mm.
I wrote that song. I did not come up with the O's first. I wrote that song that's literally a prayer from a panic attack. Like,
Mm.
legitimately, like, I had tried the breathing exercises. I had taken a walk. I had done push ups on the ground. I was trying to get myself out of this cycle of rumination. And this rumination, like, constant, same conversations over and over for like months. It was not good. And in that
Yeah.
moment, I just started writing because I know that writing actually slows down your neural pathways a little bit more. You're stimulating GABA, you're letting go of the norepinephrine and writing that down. And so I was writing legitimately for relief. And then
Mm.
I knew the repetition of something else would take the place of the rumination uh, synapse that was happening over and over. So I can shift that. And so I wrote it that way. And then I was like, okay, that's cool and all, but like, how can I also make this catchy? And then I added in the O's
Mm.
because I had been listening to like the score, and I think they had a song that had a bunch of like sing along, like anthemic kind of O's that were in there. And I was like,
But
well,
when
let's
you
add
thought
one of
about
those in there.
catchy, did what was the deeper? Because like just because you try to write something catchy, it maybe you're implying that for the audience, but like
Yeah,
who's the
yeah,
catchiness for? Like
to
when you
grab
think about that,
attention.
what is the?
to grab attention,
Okay.
to think about like what does the listener want right now? Because as
Mm.
much as music is art, it is also a business. And me grasping that is heartbreaking and
I have a spicy
like
opinion now.
to what?
I have a spicy opinion now. I actually
Yeah.
had something with a couple of things you said earlier too, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna wait for later. But no,
Oh,
go
break it
on, go
down.
on, go
Break it
on.
down.
No,
Um
yeah,
so
keep going.
it is challenging to understand that yes, music is art and but music is also a business.
Mm.
I have spent some time in the purist situation where I'm like I'm writing music just because it's pure, because it's real, because it's all about just getting this emotion out. I don't care who likes it and who wants anything to do with it. I've done the
Mm.
opposite of let's just write radio singles, things that are going to get people to move and drink more and like party and hook up and whatever. And I wrote those songs too. And now I'm kind of in the middle of both, where I'm like, okay,
Mm.
well, where can I draw from what I found from radio friendly sing along stuff? And where can I actually stay like authentic to my true like emotional experience and what I'm hoping to put out in the world, which is like, yeah, you might be really going through some hard stuff, but there's also hope. So
Mm.
it's a combination of all of that.
Mm.
But yeah, and I think I heard what was it? Oh my gosh. The what everybody says is the ultimate producer. He did the Metallica Black album. What is his name? I can't even believe I forgot.
Rick Rubin.
Yes,
No.
Rick Rubin was like, you
Okay.
never write the song for the audience. Never write the song for the
Yeah.
audience. And I'm like, you
Mm.
produced the Black album. Like going from like Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning to the Black album for Metallica. Like the Black album is the radio friendly Metallica
Oh,
album.
okay.
Like are you kidding? So it's like literally
Mm.
like the catchiest choruses and the catchiest melodies and I'm like, I don't know if I believe you, sir. I'm open to being
Interesting.
corrected,
So,
but
so that's interesting. See, I would argue that I don't just. I always want to be really cautious with assuming. I mean, I do this to be clear, so I don't want to make it sound like I don't do this. I think there's some conclusions we can draw based on the end product, and then some things are a little harder to draw. So, for
that's fair.
instance, I have a theory that when I hear a song, I usually can tell where it started. Like I can tell, like they wrote that at the piano, they wrote that at the guitar, they wrote that at the. and
You
I think for
can
the
do
most part,
that?
I can hear that. Yeah, well, because
You're
usually,
like some kind of savant. What do you mean you can
no,
tell?
no, no. I don't think it's a. It's just like a. So like if you listen to Clocks by Coldplay, it just sounds like okay. He sat at a piano.
Piano,
He
yeah.
came up with this piano
Okay.
thing, and then he like figured out the rest from there. It's kind of like a. Is a little overly simplistic, but usually the part that is like the most standout part is the part that was upstream from everything else because
Like Sweet Child of Mine started with the riff. They built the song around the riff.
exactly. So like
Making an
if there's like
assumption like that.
a
Okay.
classic riff or like if somebody told me that I don't know with 100% certainty, but if somebody told me that Seven Nation Army did not start with that, technically it's a guitar part, but baseline guitar part
Baseline,
thing,
right.
I would
I
not
would
believe them.
I
They're
would not
lying.
believe them. Yeah.
100% that start. You can just tell by listening to it. So maybe that's not true for every song, right? Some songs are more vague, and certain genres you really can't tell because whatever instrument it started on, if any, there aren't any left, right? It's just
Right.
like pads and stuff, and that's not an instrument in the classical sense. So like I don't know. In which case,
Fair.
usually I assume it started on a MIDI controller or something. But like,
Yeah.
so or like Goo Goo Dolls songs, you can kind of tell like the centerpiece is this open acoustic guitar sound or whatever. So but I don't even remember what. Oh,
You were gonna
so
give
the
me the
Rick Rubin
spice.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, oh, the spice. Yeah. Well, I guess the spicy part is that I think that music should be pure art, and then what you do with it promotion wise is then the business part.
Okay.
So the way I like to look at it is when I'm writing a song, I put on my writer hat, and I'm as best as I can. I'm turning everything off except for how to serve the song. Not worried about who's gonna like it, the audience, who's it for. I don't care about any of that. I don't necessarily even care if I mean, like, obviously I have to resonate with it, but I'm not even really thinking about that. I'm just thinking about, like, how do I make this song as best I can?
Hmm.
And, like, ideally, like, you get chills from your own. So that's where, like, it feels like you kind of, that's the best. But
Yeah.
That's not always going to happen, right? Just if you could just only write songs that give chills, then you'd be the greatest songwriter of all time. Because whoever has done that, unless they get chills from
There are a
everything,
few.
I get chills from
Yeah.
one out of every like 500 songs. So, um, but I guess my thing is that I want to keep the art, and the content can be content.
Hmm.
And that kind of connects to the business side. I'm like super
Okay.
pro business. I mean, I have businesses. Technically, songwriter theory is a business thing we're talking on
Yeah.
right now. So I'm super pro business, and I'm pro like being successful with music. But to me, the art part has to be. It's kind of like my friend who's a songwriter, producer, whatever. He talks about like he puts his songwriter hat on and does the songwriting thing. Then he puts his producer hat on. Then he puts his mixing mastering hat on because they're different hats. You're looking for
So he
different things. As a
compartmentalizes.
song,
Okay.
yeah. So like as a songwriter, right? He might have been like, oh, this is the main thing. But if he realizes in the production uh, or in the mixing mastering that like actually I know that this was a piano song and I love the piano, but low key the bass is the part that needs to stand out the most. That's what it's got to be, right? So
Yeah.
like one song I wrote on the guitar, but for the EP and for the feel, I just was like, actually, I think I got to convert this into a piano song, which is weird
Cool.
for me because if anything,
Hmm.
it'd be like I need another guitar song, and I write too many piano songs. But yeah, so I think the like changing hat things is a thing that uh, is at least to me it's important
Hmm.
because I think it's important to let the art be the art and keep that as pure as possible. But that doesn't mean, to your Rick Rubin point, I don't think that means it's not radio friendly. Like, you know, I, I would say like if it's a spectrum, right? And really unradio friendly songs would be like 12-minute songs that have weird song structures and they change, they use weird time signatures, all
Sure.
that, like Dream Theater kind of stuff would be like
Right.
the epitome to, in my mind anyway, of like not radio friendly. And then if you cuss a lot, even worse, right?
Yeah.
So like now it's like super not radio friendly on a spectrum of that to like latest pop song that's like 2.5 minutes long and literally every part is just engineered to be as catchy as possible and
Yeah.
cater to the lowest common denominator. If we think about spectrum, um, I'm probably even maybe closer to the last one I said, probably not, but like in sound, like yeah, I mean most of my songs are still 5 minutes or less. I
Hmm.
have a lot of 4-minute songs, and most songs still are verse, chorus, whatever. And I'm not writing Bohemian Rhapsody every time, which just has like four
Sheesh.
movements, right?
Right.
So like I is the thing I'm fascinated by, but like it's just that tension of like sometimes a lot of times what's right for the song is one of the things that seems radio friendly or cookie cutter, just because
Sure.
there is kind of a reason that like we established like a verse chorus cadence as a core of a song in the same way that like Hero's Journey story wise is in everything. There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. So it's not like a lack of creativity or even like a. So I guess what I'm saying is I think you can be radio friendly without trying to be radio friendly.
Sure.
Because I don't know that I've ever tried to be radio friendly, but probably most songs that I write, I probably would consider radio friendly. I mean, it
Hmm.
depends how we define that. If now it needs to be a pop song that's just catchy, then no. But like
Yeah,
radio
that's trying
friendly
too
in that
hard.
like at least in the early 2000s, 100%. Like playing 100 Years by Five for Fighting and then a song of mine, it would feel like okay, that
That
that's in
makes
the
sense.
same realm.
Yeah. I wonder
But
if it is part of a hero's journey
yeah,
as far as being an artist. I think I've always kind of gravitated toward catchy radio friendly stuff because I really
mm,
wasn't like the obscure music listener. Like I grew up in the
yeah,
South where you just listen to the radio. Like you don't get vinyl and you don't have like eclectic friends. It was always I love the South. They're incredible humans, but it is a little bit homogenous as far as like what you listen to and what you
mm,
like. So and I ended up with weird obscure things that I listened to, but it wasn't mainstream. So I kind of grew up on it. So some of it I feel like, okay, well that's kind of naturally ingrained is that radio
mm,
friendly hook centric mind in me. But I think also to your point, and this is actually really introspective for me, so thank you. Just me maybe coming out as a solo artist where I'm like, okay, it might be that scarcity mentality of like, how can I establish myself as someone who does write good hooks and good lyrics as like I know what sells, I know how to market my music, I know what genre I'm in, and to be really clear and on brand that might be a scarcity thing. And someone like yourself, who's you've been
Mm.
established as a solo artist for a long time, especially if you
No, I
already
haven't.
have, you haven't?
Definitely, no, no,
It
absolutely not.
seems like,
I mean,
yeah, it seems like you
I
have.
just have written for a long time that way,
Got it.
but I haven't actually like. This is my first time where like I'm actually pursuing doing the thing,
I love
because
it.
before it was like, what am I gonna do? Play shows in front of
Yes.
five people for like 5,000 years? And I've always said to people, if it's not scalable, I'm not interested. And now I'm like, oh, okay, somebody's found a way to like,
There's
get
one.
scalability out of your own music, which is why I'm finally like, okay, now it's just
We'll
wrong
go
to
for
not give
it.
it a shot.
Yeah.
Yes, you definitely should
Okay.
not assume that,
I
because that's
stand
definitely not
corrected.
true.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Yeah, I just figure it's could be one of those things of like the striving. You
Mm.
know, adding in that hook is maybe striving, and maybe some of it is just like, oh, well, I just grew up listening to the radio hits because that's and that's the other thing too
Mm.
that I think is a misconception that I had this misconception. I had this idea that I was less of a musician because I didn't listen to obscure stuff. I was less of a songwriter. I was less because I
That's so
didn't,
classic.
you know, that I
Yeah,
and that I wasn't like a
it's so
super
real.
uber fan of really like anyone. Like
Mm.
I don't like really fangirl over anyone. Like I can really deeply appreciate a song. I can pick apart the parts, and there are some bands and genres and solo artists that I really love, but it's never been like I'm gonna go drive 5 hours to go to this person's concert, and then they're playing again
That
next
nobody's
month,
heard of.
and I'm gonna
Yeah,
drive 3 hours to that one. I've just never been that person, and it made me feel like I wonder if
yeah.
other musicians do this. And then the more I talk to songwriters, and maybe I'm just saying it so that your audience can hear it too. Is like the more I talk to songwriters and musicians, they're like, "Yeah, I don't see a lot of live shows. Like I'm playing music all day long." It's kind of like
Mm.
the mechanic who's like, "I don't really want to work on my car. Like I work on
I
everybody
can see
else's
that.
car." So I was
I can
like,
see that.
okay. And it was very forgiving. It was very forgiving is that I don't have to be a super uber fan of anybody and really
Yeah.
dissect everything in order to put out music that at least I resonate with and that a few people have said they resonate
Mm.
with too. Um, so that was, I don't know, that was hope giving. But
I think anytime somebody tells you you have to, I like another other thing is people always use the word need,
ugh,
and the word need and have to always are like, because almost always it's. I mean, anytime somebody says, "Do you really need X?" the answer is literally always no, unless
right.
X is
Unless it's
your
air.
heart to keep beating. And
Yeah.
even that, you can argue, like, I mean, I need it to stay alive, but like, I don't need it, right? So people are
Right.
like, "Oh, do you really need that?" And it's like, well, no, I don't need a house, but I tell you what, when you have two kids, it's really nice to not have them live in a box.
It's
So I don't
helpful.
need what, but people always use need as like, oh, do you really need this thing that they decided is like above and beyond what people need? And
Yeah.
then on the other side of that, if relating it to songwriting, what I get a lot from people, I probably will get less of it because I've started to make this point more, is people will be like, oh, well, do I really need to learn music theory? And usually, by the way, when they say that, they don't even know what music theory is. They're saying like to read sheet music. And the answer to that
Right.
is no. Understanding sheet music isn't even helpful as a songwriter. But music theory is helpful as a songwriter. But that's the right question is this thing not necessary? Because almost nothing's necessary. You can write the greatest song of all time knowing nothing about music.
Yeah.
But you know what will help to be better at it consistently is to like get better at an instrument or
Yeah.
to whatever the skill, back to the bottleneck thing, right? Attack
Hmm.
the bottlenecks. Will The way I like to look at it is like out of your next 100 songs, you're trying to maximize how many of them will be good. And when we, add that little bit of theory knowledge that like, ooh, now I can use that in a song when I'm stuck on this one part and be like, ooh, well, I know if I want the harmony of a one chord, but I don't want it to sound resolved, an easy way to do that is just invert it. Just be like a first inversion or second version of the one chord. Then you get the harmony of the one chord, but because the bass isn't on that tonic, it
Hmm.
doesn't sound resolved. So like when you know things like that, that helps in the songwriting process. But people always like default to this like need thing, and it's like that's
Hmm.
not even. We're not even asking the right question because you need almost nothing. The question is like, will this thing be helpful to me? And anytime somebody tells you you need something, they're lying to you,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Maybe.
whenever do you need
Yeah.
anything? I mean,
Yeah. I love that. I
maybe that's
think
pedantic, but like, I don't know.
no, I think it's really lovely and freeing. It's more like Well, what's your goal and how can
Mm.
you get there? What are your options to get there? Because like for me, I'm like, do I need to know music theory? Do I need to know to invert the chord?
No.
I could take time to learn that, and that would be easier if my goal is to for me to have more of the responsibility and the onus of creating the underlying
Sure.
music. But if my focus and my goal is to actually I want to get better at writing not as predictable melodies. I want to actually mess around
Mm.
with modes a little bit more. Like I want to get
Nice.
better at linking my themes without it being so obvious and heavy-handed,
Mm.
but you still get the
Subtlety.
theme.
Mm.
So those are some things that I want to work on. So if that's my focus, then I don't need to learn more music theory. I need to be outsourcing that to a really awesome guitarist that knows how to do like five of the four in the third go around. Like I don't need to know what's a five of the four. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
At that
kind
point,
of
you're
know,
just leaning
but
into your strengths, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yes. And it's like
Yeah, that's a.
we're yeah, I heard it said by a leadership author that was like, what are the things that only I can do?
Mm.
Only I can do that.
Yep.
Only me, and really the only
Yep.
thing is sing. That's it.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah.
I can outsource everything else. The
Yeah.
only thing that I need to do if I want to be a solo artist, actually, if I didn't, I guess I could play guitar. But everyone, we talked about that. We'd
Yeah.
clear out the room.
I,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's the only thing just be there, just be, which is really freeing, and I
Yeah.
think kind of awesome. I guess always my question is like, all right, well, what's the goal? And if something's not working, what's the workaround? Like, what's the
Mm.
workaround here? Like, how do we get around that? Because otherwise, it's just you're going to be focused on the obstacles and the stopping blocks, and like, I'm not good enough at this, and I'm stuck here, or like, and then you just get frustrated and discouraged that you stop writing. Like,
Mm.
what's your goal and then what's the workaround? Okay, here's an obstacle. Do I go above it, around it, under it? Does somebody else know how to do this? Is there a YouTube video I can watch real quick? Is there a service that does this? Do I have a buddy that can lay down a quick guitar part? Like start thinking outside the box so you don't get stuck on that
Mm.
thing. That's something I've had to train my brain to do rather than just be like, dang it, Dana, you suck. Get better at guitar. You need to be practicing every day. You bought a course, you bought books, you should have done all these things. And
What's your
instead,
go-to workaround? On average, when you get stuck, what's your what's your main way to get out?
like, get stuck on what?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, yeah. Well, I guess all of them, right? So like melody. What's your way to get unstuck from melody? Maybe you're in a situation you have a verse melody and you love it, and you're like,
Yeah.
the chorus. I just and then lyrics too. And which one comes up more often? I'm curious about that too. Like, which one is the one that
I
like
I,
is your
I have a
big bugaboo? I guess I hate using
I
that
have a
word.
really hard time once I write lyrics that I like rewriting them. So I am in a songwriting
Hmm.
group and we submit songs and we get song reviews. And
Hmm.
especially if it's an older song and I've sang it a million times like that, doing a rewrite on lyrics is like, what do you mean that doesn't make sense? It makes perfect sense. And the truth is, it
That's
makes
so
sense for
funny.
me because I'm looking at it through my lens.
Yeah.
So someone telling you, like, oh my gosh, and then they pulled out in front of me and then like I didn't know what to do, so I just ran the other way, and that you're thinking, who pulled out in front of you? Were you in a car? Were you driving? Were you walking? Like, where were you? Are you okay? Who's this other person? Were you in trouble? But they're visualizing, oh, I was on a scooter and this car tried to kill me, and so I turned into an alley. They leave out all those details, and that happens sometimes with songwriting when you're
Yeah.
living the experience. When you're writing from that authentic place, you remember what it looked like, what it smelled like, what it felt like, and you write it down in a way that makes sense to you. But
Hmm.
the people that are listening, what's the point of view? Who are you singing to or for? Who's the person that's actually singing? What's the setting about? And what's the theme? And did I lose
Hmm.
that? And so having to like rearrange all of those things and like put in this formulaic thing into this expression is like, it's so wiggly and gross and I hate it. But I'm working with like Nashville songwriters, and there's some of the top, like, they're all about the song, they're all about writing the song. And so I have this balance um, between where they're like, everything needs to be on theme, your verse should always point to the chorus, you should always
Mm,
have the same thing. And I'm like, most of the time, right? Sometimes, and I feel myself
yeah,
bargaining. But when I make those changes,
I think that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, especially if I mean, if people get overly formulaic, right? That's a. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate the question, but like, where do you see that line, right? Because it's a fascinating line to
Individual.
me. Where like
Yeah.
sometimes, like some things are formulas, sort of, but it's not really a formula. It's just like this, like certain things don't work, right? If I just say first verse and it's about this story A, and then verse two is story B, and there's no real connecting piece, a lot of people get mad about like the idea of like saying, well, at some point it's just like wrong. Like, what, it's two different songs. What are we
Sure.
doing? So like, there's probably a line somewhere, but the way, like, at least I'm curious where you are on this. But to me, there's always like a realm of acceptable. It's kind of like how people treat each other. To me, there's like a realm of acceptable. Sometimes I'll see the way some people interact. I'll be like, I wouldn't have said it that way to that person,
Hmm.
but it's within the realm of acceptable. So I don't think they did something morally wrong or any. It's within acceptable. I wouldn't have done it, but like, sure.
Yeah.
But then, so like relating it to songwriting, there's sort of like this realm that I think is like, I may be here on this made up scale, and this other person's over here, but I think that's within acceptable. But there's always a point at which it's like, oh, okay, now it's just broken and it
Right.
just doesn't work. So like, how do you balance that? Because I don't know, but I would imagine the Nashville people probably lean too formulaic because they're thinking how to generate a hit, which I think is the wrong question.
In my preference,
But
yes.
yeah, how do you
In my
balance that?
perspective, yes. I think
Yeah.
I think it's that old saying, like, take what you like and leave the rest. You don't go to the grocery
Mm,
store and put
yeah.
everything in the cart just because everybody else likes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if somebody tells you, like, oh, that pot roast you made actually was like really bland, you're like, all right, I need to pick up some salt and some pepper, and like I'm gonna put that in the cart, but I'm still making pot
Mm,
roast. And so it's kind of that kind of situation. And I think the other go to that's really helpful is not just taking one person's opinion. I'm going to run it by several people. If I get the same feedback from three different people who don't know each other, they're in completely different groups, I need to make a change.
yeah.
So that is really helpful as well. And then sometimes it's really just being super comfortable and confident in, like, all right, intuition, all right, God, like, what is the truth of this song, and like correct me, and the humility of being like, all right, I need to make a change, or having the conviction of like, no, this is the direction the song needs to go.
Mm,
So I think it's literally a case by case scenario, but I think the easiest thing is like share the song with several people who don't know each other and see what kind of feedback you get, people that you respect who actually have credibility, right? And
mm,
then also test, like, if you're testing a song that people like, test people who are not songwriters at all. They're specifically
mm.
consumers. And after the song, ask them, what was the song
Different
about?
point of
Can you
view.
sing it back to me? And so that kind of, is it going to resonate with the audience, and not just songwriters who are like, oh my gosh, what you did with that lyric, and that was so deep, and the way that you changed that, you modulated but then you didn't, and it totally, your
Yeah,
regular
listener
audience isn't
doesn't
going to
give a
get
crap.
right.
Mm,
You're ready.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the way I get around the formulaic thing, is like, I want to stay true to what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, the intention to go write a hit song feels a little weird. And honestly, in my songwriting group, because they're all like Nashville, they very much do country. I literally sent a message
Mm,
to the coach and was like, "Hey, I've been sending in songs that I think everybody will like, and I've been trying to fit in,
yeah.
and I'm gonna send you a really heavy rock song next week."
Nice.
And he friggin' loved it. He loved it.
Even
And
better. Even
it
better.
was it was really
Something different, thank
refreshing.
God.
It was really refreshing. And but it was on theme. It was like some of those things, and it wasn't so on the nose, because I think the other thing too, that, oh, this is actually a really good point. anything that I'm learning, literally anything in my life that I'm learning. I don't care if it's learning how to play guitar right on theme, how to set boundaries, or exercise regularly. I have to do it not enough and then do it way too much to where it hurts to swing the pendulum back to where it's supposed to be for
Sure.
me. And
Hmm.
once I get to the point where I'm like, I overdo it, and then I'll like underdo it again, maybe, and then I'll compare myself to somebody else who's better at it, and I'll overdo it a little bit more, and then finally I'm like, all right, let go of what they're doing, and then I finally find like what where my pendulum should rest,
Mm.
and that's been really helpful too. Whatever, whatever that formula. Oh, I have to under formula, over formula to find the formula. My
Sure.
formula.
Yeah, it's almost like finding your artistic identity in some way, right? Where it's sort of
Any
you
identity.
get
Yeah, any identity, any
that's fair.
pattern, any behavior, any rhythm. Yeah, I think that's just the way I've always done it. And maybe not everybody's there, but I would
Mm.
rather go too far and have to dial it back than feel like I never went far enough.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to test that to know where you are really, right? Like, oh, I went too far with the thing, so now I know, like, that's too much. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a super real, just practical. I think all of us have to do that to an extent, right? I mean, even when I think about like how I've expressed things over the years, and even sometimes in the context of this, it, it's a lot of times it's like overcorrection. One because like you do want
Yeah.
to communicate to people that you care, but my to me the people that actually care are the people who are willing to tell you the honest truth
Mm.
in a loving way, but also in an honest way. But that's a fine line, right? So sometimes you get a little too honest, or it's just certain people, right? Certain people need, some friends I can be like super blunt, and I
Hmm.
need to be. Other people, it's like, whoa, dial it back, right? Like you're gonna make them cry
Yeah,
and
that says a
feel
lot
bad.
about your
It's not the
emotional
intent.
intelligence, though. Like your
But you
your
got to
ability
think about
to
that,
read
right?
people. Hmm.
Or even like I'm trying to get intentional about that with songwriter theory, where like I was on hiatus for a while to kind of get an idea. And now I got like really clear on the specific type of songwriter I want to
Awesome.
serve. And because of that, like there's going to be more and more what may seem like spicy takes that I probably will have. And that's not like engineered so much as like I've always believed those things or most of those things. And maybe some of them I've come to believe more
Hmm.
recently, but some of it is like before I was trying to serve everybody. It's like that's stupid. Like that's a stupid thing to ever try to do, whether with your own music or with, right? Like it doesn't, like Taylor Swift doesn't care that I don't like her music, and she shouldn't. She shouldn't give a rip what I think,
Right.
and neither should her fans, by the way. Hint, hint. But but anyway, um, the I don't actually care. I almost think it's funny at this point. The best part is when I call out people who get super butthurt about like Beatles or her, and they'll literally leave me a comment. I usually don't read the comments anymore because it's a it's just a bad idea. Emails are much better. But when I do, it's like, oh well, you should check out. It's like I'm not gonna do that. Why do you get like these are the biggest artists on the planet. Why do you feel like if I said something about a small band that you think deserves more appreciation, I would get it, right? You want them to receive these are the biggest artists on the planet. Half the Beatles are dead. They don't care. Why do you care so much? So weird to me. But anyway, uh, yeah, just you always have to like find that balance of what the true what's most true to you and not worry too much. I'm actually like on the opposite. I, I don't know if I've ever asked for feedback on a song ever that I didn't already complete, and it just was like that's the song. Like
It's so
I
vulnerable.
have no like the only
Yeah.
reason I even know what people think of my songs is because I finished them,
Hmm.
recorded them, and like my mixer mastering engineer, I sent him the stuff, and he's had top hits and has been super successful in music stuff. And his first email to me is like, "Wow, first of all, great song," and then blah blah blah.
Nice.
That was my version of feedback. I didn't
That's your
ask him for
feedback.
feedback. I didn't. It just was like, uh, so the feedback thing is always interesting to me. I don't
Hmm.
think I've ever been afraid to get it so much as I don't. It's so hard. I feel like it would be so hard to find people who you trust their feedback. I think that's my thing. Because, like, if
Yeah.
I were in a room like you're talking about, it sounds like a lot of those people are pointed at something different than you are. So, how could they even begin to give you the right
Hmm.
feedback if they don't know what you're trying to do?
Mm. Fundamentals
Um,
might stay the same. So kind of like exactly like you
sure.
were saying earlier, just like getting feedback. I'll point it right back to when you were saying it's about getting reps and learning.
Mm,
like just
Sure.
putting more reps in. Like if you do want to, like, because I do want to get better as a songwriter, so I was like, I'm just going to subject myself to hopefully constructive criticism. And it says it's trying to reconnect. I hope my internet's still going. But so what I lost my train of thought because my internet was being weird. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Um, oh, so like when you're going to the gym and you're doing workouts, like you still need to have like good form. Resistance training is good for you, but everybody's got a different goal, right? So the fundamentals might stay the same. The
Uh-oh.
way you go about it might be different. Um,
Internet on my end might be.
and all right, am I
Oh,
still there?
there you. Yes, you're there
Okay.
now. I missed most of that, but
Shoot.
that's okay. The
I'm
audience
so
probably
sorry.
got it. No,
Ah,
you're
we'll
good.
see. If you missed it, they probably missed it. But
Well, I
I
think
was just
doesn't it
saying,
record locally on your computer? I think it records locally on your computer.
I
I'm
don't
not sure.
know. I don't know.
I hope so.
This is your program, so I'm not sure, but it's a really cool program. Um, no, to point back to the repetitions and like who do you take
Mm,
feedback from? I think it's trying different people and deciding like, do you respect what they do? Do they actually know what they're talking about? And
mm.
who do you go to feedback for? So like I'm going to
Oh yeah.
songwriters specifically for how did the structure work out? Does the first part of the verse, do I need to flip the first part of the verse like and say this thing first in order to set the scene a little bit better? You know, and
Mm,
then if I want to know, is it a catchy song? Can I play it for a consumer mind rather than an artistic mind? Can they sing it back to me? Did they remember what it was about? And so I had to figure that out because I go to my best friend and I'm like, hey, what'd you think of the song? She's like, it was great. And I was like, well, what did you like about it? I don't know. It was a good song. And I'm like, not the person to go to feedback for. But if I need encouragement, she's the person,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think
Sure.
also no matter if they are pointing at country music in Nashville or whatnot, I do believe it's kind of like training at the gym. Like the fundamentals are going to be the same. So resistance training
Sure.
is usually fairly good for a lot of people, but resistance
Hmm.
training for my 82-year-old client who needs help with balance and to get her knees out of pain is very different than say a marathon runner or a pitcher. So it's all going to be very different, but the fundamentals are going to stay the same. The form kind of needs to stay the same. You just approach it in a different way.
Mm,
And so and and I will say that there's something really admirable about just putting music out and not getting feedback on it. Like this is the first time I've actually gone to any kind of songwriting anything and
mm.
gotten feedback at all. Like I've just exactly like you did. Like I do a song, I record it, I put it out there, and like that's what I
Yeah.
do. And so this is the first time I'm like, I had to change something. What do you mean that lyric doesn't make sense? What do you mean you wanted the melody to move more in the chorus? That's a catchy. Okay, and then I have to think like, okay, well, let's play around with it.
Mm,
Let me come up with, and this is where the stretching happens, like, because that was one of my feedback on the rock song that I played. He's like, I wanted that last part of the chorus to move a little bit more,
mm,
and I was like, okay, let me come up with 5 different ways to sing that, and it stretched me. And so my purpose of let me make my melodies not so similar, and staying in the fourth that you were talking about earlier. I'm like, I don't know. But let me find out 5 different ways to sing it. And that has stretched me, which I think is
mm.
good. And that skill will be transferable, I hope. You know? Do you do that when
Yeah.
you songwrite? Do you come up with different ways to sing the chorus or different ways to sing the verse? Like different
Um,
melodies, or does it you find it, you stick with it?
it depends is the real answer, but I find that I tend to usually it's phrase by phrase. So like
Okay.
I will iterate on that first phrase until I find it, or I will iterate like let's say it's a verse. I'll just play the usually the piano to improvise, and usually I'm playing the piano. So I'm listening back to the piano part or whatever part was the first part. Then so I recorded it, right? So now I'm listening back, and now I put on like some choir sound so that it does sound like a voice, but I'm not singing it. I'm using the keyboard because I have better visual and all that sort of stuff. And I will just loop and loop. And usually,
So
like,
you
I'll find a
do.
phrase where I'm like, oh, that phrase.
Okay.
Usually, maybe it's the A phrase, and it kind of depends. So often I probably do write it in order. Like, I find an A phrase that's really good, and that's like, okay, the fundamental question now is, does it sound like the A phrase should happen again? Or do I need a B phrase? And then
Okay.
you keep going until you find a B phrase. But sometimes, like, the first thing I find is like the last phrase, and I was like, ooh, that's where the song needs, like,
Yeah.
it needs to end on that, and then let's
Cool.
reverse engineer how to get to that. So it's a lot of, almost everything I do is like, it's iteration, like
Yeah.
just iterate on the thing, like especially lyrically, but a lot of it is iteration. Sometimes it comes fast, and sometimes it doesn't. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you work on a bunch of songs at once, right? Because if you're working on a bunch of songs at once, if you have that one song that like you just cannot find the melody for a long time, it doesn't really matter,
Switch it up.
right? You can
Yeah.
just
Switch it
move
up.
on to another song, and it doesn't
I
put the unnatural. And I get too, because some people will push back and say something like, "Oh, well, you got to push yourself and force yourself to whatever." It's like, yeah, that's what the exercise of setting a timer for an hour and starting and finishing a song is for. So you can work on that while also not degrading your art accidentally by forcing something that
right.
you're going to release to be that. Like I've had songs that I will release from that hour long thing, but usually it has significant editing after the fact. It won't always, but to me, it's like you never want to be slave to like I have to write it in an hour.
Yeah.
And if you just spent another 2 hours workshopping the lyrics, you would have had a great song, but you ended up with a mess song because you insisted it had to be done after an hour. To me, that's a great
Right.
tragedy.
Yeah. It's just a
Especially,
great exercise to stretch your skills.
yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. I love it. Well, I do have to get going here in a minute, but I
Yeah,
do want to
I was
ask
gonna
you
say,
because
yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone has asked you, um, but what would you say to somebody who's like just starting songwriting? Like even if they're like
I
later
love
in
how now you're
life.
interviewing me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is your
No, no,
show,
you're
so I
good.
know that people are wondering like, well, what would he say? Like if I'm
Well,
just
they probably
starting,
already know
like
the answer, but
what
yeah,
maybe you've probably been at maybe you've told them, maybe
yeah,
you would say things. But you are a different version of you than even two
that's
podcasts
true.
ago. So
Yeah.
so what would you say to somebody who's starting or they have a little bit of stuff here and there, maybe they can play an instrument ish or maybe they write ish. What would you tell them to maximize on, and what would you tell them to just not even put pressure on yourself for?
Yeah, that's such a big question.
It
Uh,
is.
I guess the first thing I would say, relating to the 5 day challenge I'm going to run
Oh,
for the
nice.
audience, sign up for my 5 day challenge because it's going to take you from nothing to a song in 5 days, a completed song. I do think that's the first step,
It's
which is
brilliant.
a thing that I have changed my mind about in the last probably couple years. I started shifting. I realized that first you just need to learn to start and finish a song. That's the
Hmm.
first step. Because a lot of people are like super confused about that, and like people will email me where it's like, oh, I have this part of a melody, and I don't even know how to write chords to it, and I have an idea for a lyric, but I don't know where the lyric should go. And so like a part of it is like simplifying what a song is at its heart, and like having sort of a to Z,
Hmm.
and then you can worry about diving deeper into the A to Z. So
Nice.
like for your first song, it is a good. I actually think it's a good thing for your first song to maybe write the whole song on one chord progression, and to just straight up take a common chord progression 1 5 6 4.
Hmm.
For your first song, that's actually probably a good idea because you want to set yourself up for success primarily. Then once you get that win, then it's like, okay, how do we dive deeper at one level, right? Maybe for the first song, you just wrote a verse that repeats 4 times. All right, next song, just write a verse and a chorus, but have the same chord progression. And then like you can grow over time because I think what people do is they get overzealous. Another email I've gotten some version of a lot is people like, okay, I just started songwriting and the Beatles did this thing where they use a major 3 chord and the blah 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, like you're trying to skip to like
Yeah.
expert level songwriting before like there's a concept called crawl walk run.
Hmm.
I think it's important for everything, right? Or or like training wheels and tricycle.
Hmm.
You need to learn to crawl before you can learn to walk, and then you need to learn to walk before you learn to run. No baby just skips to running, right? My son
Hmm.
right now is in the crawling stage. My daughter is in the running stage, deep into the running stage now. But like, it had to be a progression, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people try to skip that,
Hmm.
and instead they should learn to finish first, like start and finish a song. Learn to consistently come up with ideas, or just come up with an idea and see it through. But then the fundamental thing you should aim for, I think, changes. So I'm a software developer as well. So the thing I would always tell my junior software developers that are asking me, how do they become a mid-level developer? The answer I always gave them was the same. I think it's one fundamental thing. You don't get a medal for writing working code. You're a software developer. Every software developer should be able to write code that works. the difference between a low, a entry level developer and a mid level is a mid level developer writes good code. So I think songwriting is kind of the same. Finishing a song is the first important skill, but then it should start to become how do I write better songs, not just complete songs. Because yeah, we could write songs forever. That's just like literally you could write millions of songs off of the 1 5 6 4 chord progression over and over. You could do that, right? You don't need to go back to that to do anything else.
Right.
But it will certainly be limiting. So then it's kind of a matter of like how do you get better at melody writing, lyric writing, and you dive deeper on all those things. So I think it's the crawl, walk, run is maybe the short answer. Like you
That's great.
crawl, learn to finish a song, then you go into the depth with each of the layers.
Okay.
Including,
So
by
if
the
you're
way, like now, often I write songs where I'm not really even writing chord progressions. I'm writing like voices that work together. That is like, so like there is a chord progression, but I'm not actually writing it that way. But that again, you got to go one step at a time.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
You probably can't skip straight to that, and so trying I think it's a mistake. There's some people who probably can, but to me, it's like you want to set yourself up for success.
Maybe just like
But
an
I love how
unrealistic expectation.
yeah, and just
Yeah.
babies don't just try
Unfair.
to run. I mean, they
Yeah.
do, but
Yeah, be
but
fair
like,
to yourself.
it doesn't work.
So
Yeah, be fair to
maximize
yourself.
maximize the fundamentals
Yeah,
and start small. Maximize that, and then minimize trying to run a marathon from couch to marathon in one day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sort of like
Yeah.
you could say like first you learn to do 26.2 miles or whatever it is, then you learn to do it fast.
Yeah.
In this case, the comp is well, not fast for songwriting. You can do it fast and well, but to me, the emphasis should be on doing it well,
Right.
which I guess you could argue in a song, you want it to be good. In a race, you want it to be fast. So you're doing the
Cool.
thing that you actually want.
I love it.
But
So
it's
when are
something
you
like that. But
when are you running your challenge?
I think at the end of this month, I have not quite
Awesome.
narrowed it down because I'm still working on it. I know the basic framework. I'm trying to nail down the specific stuff. But for everybody watching, you should totally come because I think it's going to be awesome. I feel like I've gotten such clarity on like just over time how to practically help people. And there's like lots of things early on I insisted on that I've realized in retrospect was like I learned that way, but if I had it to do it again, I wouldn't do it that way. And one of
Nice.
those things is like the first time around, just learn to like finish a song and then worry about getting better at writing chord progressions until you get almost past chord progressions, and then get better at melody writing. Not necessarily in that order, just like they're all sub skills that you can work on independently.
Cool.
And that's the smarter way to go, rather than like overwhelming yourself with crazy music before you even write your first song. Like, no,
Yeah.
don't worry about any music theory for your first song.
Right.
Music theory will help along the way, though, to get to great songs. So, you try to wrap up with a question for me. I am going to let you go because that is how this works. We're not going to. This is turning into Joe Rogan level times.
I love it.
But last question. Thank you so much for joining us. What is the one songwriting hill, if I haven't asked this already, that you will die on? Just like any songwriting opinion that you're just like, I will die on this hill, whether popular opinion or not.
A songwriting hill.
It can be music in general too.
Music in general. I don't know if I have any hills. Do I have any hills? Oh, can I just give you a spicy
chill.
take?
Yeah, it's the same thing basically.
I call it bumper sticker country. And I can't do it. I can't do it. It is just like I grew up in the South and like she thinks my tractor's sexy. That is bumper sticker country. That is a hill I will die on where I'm like I logically, psychologically, emotionally understand the need for happy, fun-loving music where you just don't take yourself seriously. But it's that kind of stuff. But one level deeper that really, really gets under my skin is that country music these days, unfortunately, that kind of bumper sticker country has become just as derogatory about women as like the rap culture has been. and
Oh,
R&B
interesting.
culture. Yeah, like
I
Country
wouldn't
Girl
even
Shake
know.
It for me, like stuff I just can't. And no offense to their right, catchy, hooky, everybody's singing it, everybody's dancing and having a good time. Totally understand that. What are you teaching your daughters? Just
Hmm.
saying. Just and so
Yeah.
that it
I mean,
bugs
assuming
me.
that's accurate, you kind of should deride those people in a way, right? I mean, like rap is not all of it, obviously. I love
Yeah.
Dax. I like NF, and there's good
Oh
stuff
my
in there.
gosh. NF is an
But
incredible
I
lyricist.
I love it. I love NF. Only
He's
rap
so
concert I probably will ever go to. Maybe I would go to a Dax
he's
one
so
someday for
good. I'm
sure.
obsessed.
But a
But
lot
that
of rap though is like super degrading to like everyone in its lyrics. So like to
yeah.
call that out, I think it. You're saying that the bumper sticker country is doing that, which is like,
It's
oh boy, as if I couldn't hate that stuff more.
it's
It's
the
also morally
same.
bad now. Great.
It's the same. If you're
Uh,
literally talking about drinking and hooking up with girls in the car that you
yeah,
drive, you are no different. It just has a banjo. Like
that's hilarious.
I have a hard time with it. And I think it's just like that Southern hospitality roots that I grew up with
Hmm.
where like I saw my dad open the door for my mom. Did not matter if they were fighting or not. My dad will always open the door for my mom no matter what.
Yeah.
He always walked on the traffic side of the street. Like I was raised with that
Hmm.
kind of gentleman. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't have like belly rubbing music like in country, like go for it. But I grew up with this hospitality and seeing my dad respect my mom in that way.
Mm.
And so it's just like, oh, I really just, my naivete, the sweetness of it, I just want the South to stay a little more pure.
Mm.
You know, like I really just
Yeah.
like, you don't have to go there because I
Yeah. Like even
guarantee
you
you
guys
don't.
have fallen to this. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like you guys are the ones with shotguns when you meet your daughter's boyfriend, but she's listening to what? You know what I mean? But she's
Yeah.
listening to that. She's shaking it for them. Like, stop it. So that I think is a big hill I'll die on. So I tried to start off easy with, and then I just went a little more
I love it.
moral.
I
But
love
I
that it
think,
got spicier and spicier.
yeah.
Dana Andrews, everybody, you should absolutely check her out. I'll put her links in the description down below.
Thank you
Be
so
sure to
much.
check her
This was
stuff out.
awesome, dude. I
Her
have
voice is
notes.
freaking awesome. You have notes.
I have
Yeah.
no. I already
So,
have a song idea I'm gonna
so
write. Like I have like three
somehow,
different things I can need fixed. Like I'm so excited. This is great.
uh,
And shamelessly
thank you so
promote
much
your
for.
5 day challenge to me.
Oh yeah, I probably
Send me
should.
the info.
But yeah, 5 day challenge link will be in the description for that too. But seriously, it for everybody before I hit stop on record of this.
Sure.
The point of the challenge again, for everybody listening who somehow made it 2.5 hours in or whatever we are, is the first step is just learning. So many people are struggling to just like finish a song. So that's the first step, and then the next step after that, we can get into is then how do we level up at like everything else? Because the first step to writing a great song is writing a song.
Yeah.
That's the first step, and then the next step is learning to sort of have depth at every level. Because I've said this before, I'll say this a million times. Of course, you can write a great song with no music theory knowledge at all. But to me, it's all about maximizing probability. Like almost everything in your life is a choice to maximize probability. And the fewer bottlenecks you have and the fewer limitations you have, you're just, if I took my piano skill and sliced it in half, which is some piano riffs I wouldn't have been able to write that I think are pretty good, it would limit me.
Mm.
Right. So as best as possible, I think we all almost owe it to ourselves and our songs to like attack those limitations, but that's the step after learning how to finish. So if you want to start and finish a song in 5 days, you should totally join the 5 day challenge. I'm excited about it. And yeah, but again, thank you, Dana.
This is
Appreciate you
awesome.
talking to me.
Thank you so
And
much.
I will hit stop now, and we're going to pretend like we're not totally going to talk for probably another couple minutes after
Totally
this.
will.
But see everybody later.